1. Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Sports PSP. Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast. Hope everyone is enjoying a fantastic Friday evening coming off work, school, whatever the case may be. Of course, I cannot do the show without the great panel that I have from my Georgia boys, BRF Sports. How you doing, brother?
I think this week was like easily the craziest week I've been a part of since I took that promotion back in June a couple years ago. Wild, but hey, as long as we making the money, that's all that mattered to me. Blessed to still be alive. Blessed to be on the right side. Blessed to be on the right side of the ground. Always a pleasure to be on here with you, with the homies, PSP, and my 706 brother champ. Always a pleasure to be on here, and I'm ready to get into the topics because it's been a wild week to say the least.
Wild week to say the least, man. You ain't far off, man. We're gonna get into it. And of course, we cannot start the Sports PSP podcast without my guy, Undisputed World Champ. Please go like and subscribe to his podcast. Please go check him out on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, the Birds. Had their Super Bowl parade today, man. Shout out to the people who I don't know if that was fake news or not, so I'm not gonna bring it up. But you know, look, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Spend time with your lovers, with your friends, and with people that care about you, man. So just be aware and just spend time with people. And you never know when the clock is done ticking. So spend time with your loved ones and make that person in your life feel special, man. Don't make them feel special and make this the best weekend they could possibly muster.
If you want that person to feel special, take them out to a nice restaurant, take them out to a bar, have a couple of drinks and some good food. Have some good pasta and some wine or something. That'll
Yeah.
get you. That would be a great romantic evening for your loved one or anybody in general. Or just take it to the movies or just do something. Enjoy because again, we are a month away from spring. The weather's gonna start to get warmer. I can't wait because y'all know I'm in Jersey. Cold weather. Can't stand being out in that cold all that time. I know y'all in Georgia. I know y'all have to deal with that cold as well. But March, spring is almost coming, which is also good because March Madness, of course, college basketball.
Yeah.
BRF, I'm gonna let you go first, man. You picked the Chiefs. Champ and I picked the Eagles. Um, Although we predicted that the Eagles would win, we did not expect a blowout. The floor is yours.
That was Super Bowl 55 all over again. That's what it was. It was the when and you've seen it in the Kansas City losses when they do lose. A good defensive line is like the kryptonite for Patrick Mahomes because he can't get in the rhythm, he can't find his spot, he can't create like he wants to create. And the Philadelphia Eagles just did an amazing job, basically just taking him out the game, hitting him. And honestly, I said it myself. The right team is not going to care about penalties. The right team's not going to be scared. The right team's not going to care about, oh, is the ref going to throw this flag? Is the ref going to throw this flag? I told you he was going to run into the right defense, and he ran into the right one. The Philadelphia Eagles didn't care about all that. They got after him, and that was really my key for them to win the game. They did exactly what I felt like they needed to do to win Super Bowl 59, which was attack from the first quarter to the fourth quarter and not let the foot off the gas. That's exactly what they did on offense and defense. Um, I really thought either Milton Williams or Josh Sweat was going to have an awesome opportunity to win Super Bowl MVP. But as soon as Jalen Hurts dropped that breadbasket, gorgeous dot of a throw on Devontae Smith to get that touchdown, I was like, yeah, Super Bowl MVP's a wrap. Jalen Hurts got this on lock because he was efficient. Outside of really that one interception he threw, trying to get it to the red zone, outside of that one throw, he was practically flawless. He played an amazing game. He picked the right time to play possibly the two best games of his career. that NFC Championship against Washington and the Super Bowl against KC. Arguably two of the greatest games of his career. I mean, he showed up and he showed out. I mean, nothing but respect. And I think he solidified as a top 10 quarterback in this league. I think he solidified himself with these performances. He's a champion. And you can't take that away from him. So many, I mean, I kind of doubted him a little bit. So many people doubted him, his ability to be consistent throwing the ball, his ability to be a true to the game quarterback, and he shut everybody up. And I think and I hope it really gives him confidence now and beyond going into the future, knowing that he is one of the better quarterbacks in this league. I think it's solidified top 10 after this. It was honestly, it was one of those games where it's like you have a team every so often that just plays this game where it doesn't matter who they played, any team of any era. Honestly, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, could have beaten anybody on that field on Sunday night, and it was just an amazing performance to behold. And as for the Chiefs, I mean, what can you say? You had no shot. Yeah, I mean, and then it's bad because the score ended up being 40-22, but that was garbage. I mean, I don't like throwing the words out of garbage time and stat padding, but that's exactly what that was. That's exactly what that was. Game wasn't even that close. At one point, that game was 40-6. Game was done in the third quarter. I mean, I feel like the key to that game for me was just the Philadelphia defense. I mean, that Philadelphia defense just gave their offense pristine field position and their ability with misdirection, and shout out to AJ Brown. I mean, he lit up Trent McDuffie like a Christmas tree all game. Just shout out to AJ Brown. He lit him up. And Trent McDuffie, he's arguably the best corner in this league. Definitely, in my opinion, definitely top 3. And AJ Brown lit him up. I mean, that was crazy to see. The Eagles were just on one on both sides of the ball, and there was nothing.
That AJ Brown was reading helped him.
Oh,
the book he was reading on the sideline.
Whatever I am telling you, whatever type of focus that was putting him under, it worked because he tore Trent McDuffie's butt. He tore him up, and like I said, that was just a game where they were executing on both sides of the ball. They really didn't. They hardly made any mistakes. And it was like even when Kansas City couldn't when they did make plays, when they did get first downs, Philadelphia was able to just stop the snowball on their end. Kansas City Chiefs just couldn't stop the snowball on their end when it came to the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Philadelphia Eagles they won that game. That wasn't about Kansas City making mistakes and just costing themselves. No, Philadelphia took it down after down after down. There was nothing the Philadelphia Eagles could not do in that game. The Kansas City Chiefs were hopeless. They were hopeless from the word go. Hopeless from the word go. And it was one of those where you watch a game and you're like, okay, all right, when is Kansas City finally when they gonna make that play, when they gonna step up? And it's like right when you think it may come, Cooper DeJean gets a pick 6. Or Milton Williams gets a sack, or Josh Sweat gets a sack, or Zach Bond gets another interception to give them great field position. I mean, just Philly was the better team. Philly was the better team. Like I said, it felt just like Super Bowl 55 all over again because even though every team, in my opinion, doesn't have like the roster or the physicality that the Philadelphia Eagles possess, teams look at that now and they're going to say, oh, if we could put a front 4 together that can get pressure on the Kansas City Chiefs, we can get them too. And I feel like Tampa Bay kind of showed that a little bit, and Philadelphia really laid that blueprint out again. If you can rush Kansas City with your front 4 and not have to blitz, you could take them out the game. And interesting, and a stat that I saw, I don't know the other 5 instances. I'll have to look it up. But this was the 6th time in Super Bowl history that a team called no blitzes. And those teams are 6-0 in those Super Bowls. So that, I mean, and honestly, it makes sense. When you can get pressure with your front 4 without having to blitz, that means you can leave more guys in coverage. You can run your defense the way you want to run and make the quarterback try to make throws he's usually not accustomed to making, Or in Patrick Mahomes' case, I mean, yeah, he can make all the throws, but you just had more guys in positions to make plays on the back end of the defense. So Philadelphia Eagles just dictated the tempo. They played exactly how I felt like they needed to play to win. They dictated the tempo. They dictated the pace. Kansas City couldn't do a thing about it. And at the end of the day, you saw the score. So shout out to the Eagles. They played a hell of a game, and nothing you can. And Kansas City has nothing really to like hang their heads about. They were a dynasty, 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. They really have nothing to hang their heads on. But at the end of the day, Philly was just better. Philly was just better. Just really, that's pretty much how you lay it out. Philadelphia played a better game, and shout out to them. They deserve to be Super Bowl champions.
Undisputed world champ.
Oh man, that was how do I top that, man? The brilliant BRF, man, articulating best he can, the best he can, bro. That's brilliant. I can't top that. That's amazing. You articulated the hell out of that, man. Good job, bro. I can honestly say this, man. You know what that looks like? That defense looked like the steel curtain. And if you ever notice, everybody when he went back to pass, they all dropped back in the zone. That's the same thing the steel curtain used to do. That was the Tampa 2 at its finest. That was the Tampa 2 at its finest. And another team that did not call any blitzes during their Super Bowl was the New York Giants. Ironically, they didn't call anyone when they played the Buffalo Bills. They did not call a single blitz, and I know that's kind of out of character for them, especially during that time. Back in 1990, because they had arguably the best pass rush of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't blitz but two. They didn't rush but two people that entire game. The rest dropped back into coverage so they could stop the K-Gun offense. That was the other team that did that. That's the one I know off the head. But I know the Steel Curtain back in the 70s did the same thing. Honestly, like BRF said, man, you was waiting. It's kind of like you're going to a movie and you're waiting for the villain to kind of turn up. It's kind of like you're going to see a Batman movie. You waiting for Bane to kind of make a comeback on Batman, at least for a second. And it never happens for some reason. It's kind of like that second fight in Dark Knight Rises. And it's like, okay, he gonna bring it back in like a second, but Batman still just laying it on him. That's exactly what happened. And huge shout out, man. And like I said in another podcast, I'm not so sure if it was this from PSP. They benefited hugely from Brandon Graham coming back.
Yes, they did.
Brandon Graham coming back was a huge addition for the Philadelphia Eagles, man. And look, man, like I said, hey, shout out to Georgia, man. Shout out to Georgia, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis showed out in the Super Bowl. He even got a sack in the Super Bowl. So those Georgia Dogs really went out there and showed out. So I am happy for the Philadelphia Eagles, man. And whatever narrative that anybody has against Jalen Hurts at this point, it's over. It's over. Stop. Here's my thing. Stop trying to punish good quarterbacks when they have good teams. That's what they're supposed to have. That's what they're supposed to have. There's been guys with plenty of teams that were built around them for years and didn't win Super Bowls. There's been plenty of guys. This year, Jared Goff had a good team around him. He didn't win a Super Bowl. He had a good team built around him for 2 to 3 years, for the last 2 to 3 years. He hasn't won a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy, I've been on record with saying that Brock Purdy has got the best team money can buy. And the funniest thing about it, they keep getting deeper. This year, they added Ricky Pearsall to the roster. He's going to be a darn good wide receiver. They already had Jefferson and Jennings on that team. Then he had Brandon Ayuk. Then he had already one of the best backs in the league. They didn't win a Super Bowl. They couldn't beat Patrick Mahomes and slay the dragon. So give Jalen Hurts credit what credit is due. Like I said on a video that I made on TikTok, Jalen Hurts has been winning since he was at Alabama. And then he left Alabama and was a Heisman Trophy candidate. People thought he was through. People said, oh, he can't throw. Oh, he can't do this. He can't do that. He led his team to the college football playoffs 3 separate times. and was an instrumental part of getting Alabama to win that national championship in 2016 over my Georgia Bulldogs. Then the very next year, Tua gets hurt. He wins the SEC championship against us. So all that young man has done throughout his career, although he's counted out, is win. He's won. Then went to Lincoln Riley's offense and showed him, okay, y'all think this is all that I can do? I'm going to show you my arm. Now he's outdoing the guy who replaced him at Alabama. So all of this narrative that he just has a good team around him. No. When you have a great team around you, that's what you're supposed to have. That's what your general managers and the team is for, is to build a team around you that is capable of winning the Super Bowl. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to have a quarterback that's pulling. You're not supposed to have a quarterback that is Dan Marino and his team every single year. You have no offense. You have no defense. It's just you is plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. No, that's not the way it's supposed to be. That team was built to be great. And Jalen Hurts is the quarterback that helped them be great. Granted, he wasn't even supposed to be the starter. It was supposed to be Carson Wentz. It was supposed to be Carson Wentz. They drafted him in the later rounds. In the second round. He's supposed to be behind Carson Wentz. So, and when he couldn't come back, Jalen took over, and they've been winning ever since. Granted, they haven't won but one Super Bowl, but they've been to the Super Bowl. They've had a winning records. They've been to the playoffs every single year he's been there, and he's doing a darn good job. So stop with this narrative of he did what he was supposed to do. Did we say that when Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl, or although he was surrounded with Hall of Famers galore? Did we say that about him? Did we? No. We said good for him. He's finally solidified his spot. Because he had to slay the giant on his way to the Super Bowl. Then when he got there, he had to slay one of the greatest defenses in history. So when somebody goes and slays the dragon, don't give all of these other fairy tales about how he slayed the dragon. He went out there and slayed the dragon. And the fact of the matter is, he outpaid Patrick Mahomes in both Super Bowls. He just so happened to lose one of them. His record in the playoffs is better than Lamar Jackson's, better than Justin Herbert's, better than Joe Burrow, better than a lot of the top three quarterbacks that we call top three in the league. We call Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. We call those the top four behind Patrick Mahomes. We call those the top four behind him. He has more playoff wins than every last one of them. Every last one of them. And each and every last one of them has had good teams around them. They couldn't win. Lamar Jackson couldn't win this year. One of the best offenses. Not only did Lamar Jackson have the best offense this year, most yards in NFL history, he had the best defense historically last year. The team had something sacks, broke the sack record, scoring record, and everything. He couldn't win with neither one of those teams. And that's not a knock on Lamar Jackson. That just goes to show people, okay, people have had good teams. They couldn't win with them. So let's cut out trying to discredit someone because it's just not your cup of tea. Because I believe that's all it is. It's Eagles hate. It's just Eagles hate. Because like I said, we've seen guys with great teams. We saw Lamar Jackson with great teams. We saw Joe Burrow with great teams. We saw Brock with great teams. Jared Goff with great teams. Neither one of those guys have won the Super Bowl and slayed Patrick Mahomes on the biggest stage ever. Only one person has beaten Patrick Mahomes on the biggest stage ever. That's the greatest of all time, Tom Brady. And now Jalen Hurts is a part of that elite competition. As far as Patrick Mahomes, you ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. You just lost to a better team. So, hey, stop with the Jalen Hurts discrediting. And look, he's top 10, at least top 10. So let it go. Whatever narrative that y'all trying to pull out of whichever way, It's time for that to stop. He solidified himself. He's won the Super Bowl. The great team that he has around him, that's what he's supposed to have. That's what he's supposed to have. Let's stop trying to discredit people because, oh, guess what? Our quarterback didn't win. Because every time Justin Herbert does not get to a Super Bowl, what do we say? Well, he doesn't have a good team around him. When Lamar Jackson was not able to get to a Super Bowl because he didn't have the receivers, right? But he doesn't have the great receivers around him. Okay, Jalen Hurts has all that. He won with what was given to him. So stop all of these false narratives because someone is not your cup of tea.
All right, comment from Chosen League. Shout out to Chosen League. Glad the Eagles got the W in the Super Bowl. Eagles showed that they were capable of beating a team that's potentially going to become a dynasty. But, Champ, this is the problem that I have with you with this argument. And, again, this is not a knock on Jalen Hurts. But I am getting tired of people saying, well, because he won a Super Bowl, now all of a sudden he's elite. If you want to make an argument Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback and that he's a good enough quarterback that you can build around and win you games in a Super Bowl, fine with that. But if you think after that Super Bowl victory, all of a sudden that's going to make me say he's elite, you out your damn mind. No, Champ, I'm going to be honest because I'm getting tired of it. Because just because you won a Super Bowl, all of a sudden that makes you elite. Well, Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. He still has ways to go, but he has a Super Bowl. So let's give him his due. But just because he's won a Super Bowl doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to put him above Burrow or Lamar. Because I was listening to Reels Talk with MJ on Trent's podcast. Shout out to Trent. And he was trying to make an argument for Jalen Hurts top 2.
No. If I can go real quick, PSP.
Go ahead.
I would never say that he's elite. Now, is he in elite company for slaying the dragon? Yes. Is he top 10? Yes. But at the end of the day, I'm still picking one of the other guys before I pick Jalen Hurts.
And that's all I'm saying.
I'm still picking the other guys. But the fact of the matter is, I can understand you not saying that he's elite. The problem I have with, and this is not an indictment on you, the problem I have with some of the media is they're saying, well, he had a great team. So did Peyton Manning. He had Hall of Famers on his team. What was your knock on him? When the problem is when other people did it and they had great teams, it was like, okay, they slayed the dragon. Just like I said it earlier. But with Jalen Hurts, well, it's because he had a great team around him. That's what he's supposed to have. Now, I'm not going to be foolish enough to put him in Lamar Jackson company and stuff like that as far as talent-wise and, throwing motion and things of that nature. And
which is why I'm not talking about you. This is not an indictment on you. I just have a problem with some in the media and the public saying, well, because Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl, now all of a sudden he's elite. My thing is, no. He won a Super Bowl. Give him his credit. Give him his due, considering for a quarterback, mind you, when he came into college, I don't think any NFL scout or GM wanted him to play quarterback because they weren't so sold on him as quarterback, kind of like with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl only because they were the better team. Fellas, I'm going to be real with you. After the first drive of the second half, I stopped watching the Super Bowl. I stopped watching it. I'm like, really? This is the best type of performance you're going to give me on the biggest stage? F this. I'm watching Netflix. I'm watching Hulu. I'm watching WWE Legends. I'm watching The Dark Side of the Ring. I'm going to spend my time watching some stuff. Matter of fact, I got so disgusted with the game and I was sick at the same time. I'm like, you know what, boss? I love you. I respect you. I need to take some time off from work to process what I had to witness in that Super Bowl. That's how bad that Super Bowl was for me. I'm disgusted. Yeah, it sounds like to me I'm being salty because I can't stand dumb, annoying, obnoxious Eagles fans. This has nothing to do with Broad or Dennis, or any other Eagles fan who I have mad respect for, congratulations to the Eagles for winning the Super Bowl. But some of y'all Eagles fans, y'all getting on my nerves, man. To the point where I'm just like, F y'all, I'm gonna go chill, I'm gonna watch Netflix and stuff like that. As it pertains to the game, this to me, y'all talk about the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers. No, this is about as bad as Seattle versus Denver. That's how
fair.
bad it was for the Chiefs. That's how bad it was for Patrick Mahomes. I'm like, okay, Mahomes, at some point, when are you going to when are you going to turn it around? This is a golden opportunity for you to become the GOAT. To some people, and by the way, and for other people who say that Patrick Mahomes, the GOAT conversation, it's over because he lost the Super Bowl. Newsflash, people, he's 29 years old. He's got 10 years left. So, Champ, myself, BRF said, even if he won the Super Bowl, even if he three-peated, we still didn't have Mahomes as the GOAT. So let's calm down. Let's pipe the break. Give credit to the Eagles, their defense. Let's also give another guy that we have criticized, Nick Sirianni, because he's been receiving a lot of criticism as far as his strategies and things of that nature. Let's give him his due. He played well. It came down to coaching. If the game get close, it all comes down to coaching. Who would you rather trust? Would you rather trust Nick Sirianni or would you rather trust Andy Reid? All of us, it was unanimous, Andy Reid, because of his experience. Nick Sirianni, hey, he coached and he coached well. I'm looking at this from a standpoint as a Washington Commanders fan. Even though I am disgusted that the Eagles won, compared to the Chiefs, I gotta be honest with you, Washington didn't even play that bad compared to Kansas City. Mind you, when we had a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who looked better than Patrick Mahomes. That's what looks so bad for Kansas City because, yes, you were the favorites. You've had experience going up against this team. Patrick Mahomes, prior to the Super Bowl, you were 8-0 going up against Vic Fangio's defense. And you wet the bed in that game. You played awful. It was just that bad. It was just as bad as Seattle versus Denver. I mean, it was 34-0 at one point. I'm like, really? Turn off the TV. I'm watching Netflix. Hell, I was watching the Kardashians, to be honest with you, because I need to have some level of entertainment. And you give me this Super Bowl performance. No, I ain't watching this.
I'll say this real quick. I don't quite put this on the level of Seattle Denver. And the reason why I don't put this quite at the level of Seattle Denver is the history that Denver offense made that year. That Denver offense was breaking record after record after record after record after record. If I'm not mistaken, that's the year Peyton Manning set the touchdown record with 55. Am I correct?
Yes, he did.
55 touchdowns.
I'm talking BRF. I'm talking about if this was a typical BTA game, that is what you saw last Sunday.
I get what you're saying, but I'm looking at it. I get what you're saying, but from an historic level, as far as what Denver was doing and how nobody gave Seattle a shot in that game, and how Seattle just took like one of the arguably top 5 offenses, single season offenses in the history of football, and basically just say, hey, we don't care. We're gonna do what we do, and we're gonna destroy you from minute 1 to the last minute of the game. From I'm talking like from a historic level, I don't put this one there because there was like history in that game. Like Seattle took Denver, who was just basically destroying anybody offensively you put in front of them, and just like that game was done at halftime. I mean, as far as like Denver being the type of offense they were, Kansas City's offense this year was nowhere near as good as what that Denver offense was this year. I think we look at this game from the standpoint of what Patrick Mahomes could potentially do had he won this game, and Philly just didn't give a damn. I'm looking at it from the standpoint why I say Super Bowl 55 is because we've seen this before. That's why I kind of put it with Super Bowl 55. It was that was like a rerun of Super Bowl 55. It's like you took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you changed uniforms, you get the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was almost like the exact thing. Patrick Mahomes running for his life pretty much the first 3 quarters of the game until Philly decided to let off the gas and just let Patrick Mahomes get a little bit in crunch time because almost like in garbage time because it was like, what more do we need to do? The game over with. We got nothing else to prove. The game over. I don't care how good Patrick Mahomes is. He ain't that good to come out from 34 point down. I don't care how good he is. So it was man. I honestly though, I watched the whole game because honestly it was nothing else on TV for me to watch for me. So I just watched the whole game, but I'm just looking at it. And I'm just like, damn, whew. Patrick Mahomes, you are not a Super Bowl performing quarterback, my guy. You got two ugly performances in the Super Bowl, and none of your performances in the Super Bowl were really that spectacular. Or we could be like, man, you showed up that day. The only game he really had that was like, man, he showed out was probably last year.
He got to pass the first Super Bowl that he lost because even though it was 31-9, people will still look at some of the amazing throws that he made in that game. It was no surprise that Tampa won because, to quote Champ, quarterback cannot throw behind his back. But Kansas City's offensive line wasn't as decimated as that old line back then in 2020.
Mm-mm.
And for you to get embarrassed like that, albeit against the Eagles front line, you talk about BTA, talk about a game like that. Man, I didn't even watch the halftime performance. I didn't even see Serena Williams crip walking. We'll get into that later on in the show. I was like, this is the best game y'all gonna give me. Fine. Let me watch Dark Side of the Ring. Let me watch the Kardashians. Let me watch Love and Hip Hop, Real Housewives of Atlanta. Let me find some level of entertainment just to get me through the night before I go to work. Because how can you leave me on a Sunday night to watch this level of garbage? I'm sorry. I mean, maybe I'm being petty, I'm being salty, but this is not the type of Super Bowl that I anticipated. I don't blame the Eagles because they handled their business. You can't knock the Eagles for handling their business. They came in, Jalen Hurts. Look, do I think this performance makes him elite? No. What it shows you, however, is that this is the type of quarterback Philadelphia is more than proud to have. Because, Champ, you stole my thunder. They had Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was supposed to be their guy. Had it not been for injury in his second year, Carson Wentz would have won the league MVP. But he got hurt. Nick Foles ended up taking over for the team, winning the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz was supposed to be that guy, and they drafted Jalen Hurts because they couldn't trust Carson Wentz, whether mentally, physically, whatever the case may be. They decided to move on from Carson Wentz, go to Jalen Hurts. And yes, Champ, to your point, Jalen Hurts is a winner. Jalen Hurts has intangibles. The beauty of it for the Eagles, Saquon Barkley wasn't even that much of a factor in that game, and they beat them hands down. That's what makes it even more bad for Kansas City. And Steve Spagnuolo, other than stopping the run, there was nothing that you can do to stop the Eagles' offense. Trent McDuffie made some dumb penalties as well. I mean, even when Kansas City had chances, it was like they shot themselves in the foot. It was like Champ going off his diet. 1 minute he's going on Nutrisystem, eating all them good foods, and then all of a sudden he's at Magic City eating wings and thighs. And the next thing you know, he was at Popeyes having that Don Julio sandwich with the drink as well. That's how bad it was for Kansas City. I mean, hell, that's like me. You probably saw me at the liquor store. One day I go from drinking orange juice and coffee, and the next minute you see me at the liquor store having 3-4 Di Serranos with some Angry Orchards. That's how bad it was for Kansas City that day.
Damn. I can't stop laughing. Good God. Oh, wow. Well, that's amazing.
No,
Champ, I'm gonna let y'all get these couple of minutes. I'm gonna put my face in my shirt because I don't know how to show myself after that one.
Hey man, Professor Clump is in the building, people. But Professor Clump is in the building. Look, I'm gonna just be real, man. That Super Bowl reminded me a lot of what New England did against the Chicago Bears back in Super Bowl 20 when they honed in on Walter Payton. And they just couldn't stop the rest of the offense. And then what we did in 1998 with the Denver Broncos. Yeah, you did a hell of a job with, stopping the run. You did good job. But you just couldn't stop the rest of the team. And you depended on Jalen Hurts in order to beat you. And he did. And look, man, like I said, Jalen Hurts is a winner. Now, granted, I'm not going to put him in conversations where he doesn't belong, but he did submit himself for being in top 10 conversation. Can't leave him out anymore. They have a lot of work to do as far as in Kansas City. Not to mention they're in cap hell this coming year because 6 of their players is taking up 63% of their salary. And
one of them is Kelsey.
Yes. And he has until March the 14th to make a decision of whether he's going to come back or retire because they're probably looking at drafting another tight end. So, I mean, you got to think about a lot of things, and you got to think about how long this core of players is going to last. So, and yeah,
I still think Kansas City will still compete because the bottom line, champ, is Baltimore, Buffalo, all these teams, and still they can't knock off Kansas City. Now, I don't see Kansas City doing it all for the long term, but they're still going to be the team to come out.
Yeah, but you got to think about this. Now, you don't have that distinct advantage of just running through your division anymore because these teams are only going to get better. You got 4 Super Bowl caliber coaches in your division. So you're not going to be just running through that division like you've done previous years when this division was just mediocre. This year showed us that because there was a lot of close games within that division. So you're not going to have that advantage anymore. When you really look at a lot of other Super Bowl champions outside of, I will say, the Green Bay Packers, a lot of them had relatively weak divisions. When you think about the Cowboys doing their run started happening on the tail end of the Washington Commanders run and the New York Giants run. They happened on the tail end of those runs. When you think about Tom Brady's run, you think about how weak the AFC East was, with the exception of a couple of years when they actually had Mark Sanchez in that division with that defense. When you think about that. When you think about the AFC South, after Steve McNair left in 2005, there was pretty much years where Peyton was unscathed in that division. He was sweeping that division pretty much every year. So when you think about a lot of those divisions when these guys had dynasties, it was pretty much a very, very weak division. And so when you think about this division that's coming up, we all know Jim Harbaugh is a championship coach. He won one in college with Blake Corum and J.J. McCarthy, and he went to a Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. So we know what he's capable of. When you talk about Pete Carroll, he's going to 2 Super Bowls. Granted, we don't know how long he's going to be there. If he's just there for the rebuild projects and just say, okay, we've got this in place, now it's time for me to move on, or if he's going to be there for the long haul. But either way, he is a Super Bowl winning coach, not to mention the GOAT himself is overseeing that team. He knows how to win. Then you have Sean Payton and that defense and Bo Nix. If it had not been for the great Jaden Daniels being as good as he is and going to the NFC Championship and leading that team pretty much out of hell at a certain point, then Bo Nix would have been the Rookie of the Year. So I just have to say, hey, you're going to be in contention, but it's not going to be as easy as it once was in previous years. And I believe that this year, because 3 teams made it out of that AFC West division and made it to the playoffs.
Yes.
3. And so that's becoming another blood and guts division, much like the NFC North and the AFC North. So you gotta watch yourself a little bit more, because now you got to worry about that Super Bowl hangover. Because it hurts. I mean, no matter how much you try to fight it, it hurts everybody. That Super Bowl hangover, it's gonna hurt you one way or another. So you got a lot to worry about this coming years. You got to worry about the competition within your division. You got to worry about cap hell, these guys within contracts. And guess what? These teams that you face are only going to get better, because guess what? You got to ask yourself this. What if the San Francisco 49ers say this during the offseason? Okay, we saw how you beat them. 2 guys are available in the offseason. Joey Bosa and Myles Garrett. So what if they follow their blueprint and say, we need some help up front so we don't have to blitz?
But here's
what if they say we need to go get Myles Garrett?
But here's
what if they say we need to go get Joey Bosa?
But here's the thing, champ. And the reason why I'm reluctant with those 3 teams, first of all, you look at the Raiders, they're in a reclamation process. So it's going to take them some time. Plus, your point with Pete Carroll, how long does it have left in the tank? Yes, Brady is overseeing things, but still, how long does Pete Carroll have left? Then you look at Denver. Okay, good defense, but this is your first time you've been to the playoffs since 2015. And with the Chargers, I like Justin Herbert, but boy, you have a lot to prove after that playoff performance against Houston. And we've seen you go toe-to-toe against Mahomes. So when I look at the AFC West, Kansas City is still going to win that division, because if you put me on a lie detector test, I still believe they're still the better team. However, with the AFC, that's going to be a problem, because you still can't discount Buffalo. You still can't deny Baltimore. I hope for Baltimore they make it to come out of the AFC. Considering how the way that they lost in that playoff game, and considering how frustrating it was for Lamar, I hope that Lamar pulls it off. But still, at the end of the day, as long as Mahomes and Reed, and I think this is a great thing for Kansas City, because guess what? You're going to give them a reason to prove something. Andy Reid, if he would won another Super Bowl, he ain't going anywhere. That's the thing, too. He is not going anywhere. What Kansas City, they're going to have to do, they're going to have to address some of the offensive line. And, yeah, to the cap situation, that's going to be a problem. But and they're going to have to get Travis Kelce's successor. They're going to have to get Travis Kelce's successor. They're going to have to get a tight end. Kelce, we appreciate everything you've done, but it's time for us to move on. So they got to get Mahomes some more weapons to work with. It can't just be the types of guys. Heck, if your Kansas City, I still believe you're still going to be one of the teams to come out in the AFC, as long as Mahomes and Reed and Chris Jones are there. Steve Spagnuolo is still going to be there. So you're going to have to ask players to make some sacrifices. You're going to have to ask them whether to take pay cuts or not, with some players or not. And I just think, though, when you look at the AFC, they're still going to be the team to come out. We talk about Joe Burrow all the time. Matter of fact, you made the argument. If he loses both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, if I'm Joe Burrow, I retire. You look at Pittsburgh. They're still consistent. They make the playoffs. But Mike Tomlin, and again, you still don't know about a quarterback situation. Bo Nix, I believe Denver's going to take a next step up, because this is the first time you've had a competent quarterback for a while since Peyton Manning. So I expect you to go nowhere but up. Justin Herbert, I still believe the talent is there. And what do we know about Jim Harbaugh? He provides defense from San Francisco to Michigan. And now the Chargers had the best defense in the NFL. But still, under those circumstances, you couldn't get the job done. Plus, we can't ignore the Houston Texans because they've also had injuries as well. Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I do believe CJ Stroud will have a better year. But I still believe Kansas City is still going to be the team because I trust the organization from the Hunt family. They're going to do some things, whether from the draft, they're going to have to convince players to take some pay cuts because, again, they're trying to take the Patriots approach. So I believe that Kansas City, they're going to have struggles. They're definitely going to have a Super Bowl hangover, but I still believe that the future is still bright for them as far as competing for Super Bowls. I don't think by this loss in that Super Bowl champ, it's over for them to not capture another Super Bowl. That is where I disagree with.
Like I said, I don't think that they're done winning Super Bowls. I would be a fool to believe that. But I think it's going to be a little bit rougher. It's not going to be as smooth as it was. It's not going to be as smooth. It's not going to be these dominating performances that we're used to seeing. As time went on, we saw that with the Patriots as well. They was winning, but it wasn't as smooth. Patriots in the first couple of years, it was smooth. As time progressed, it got a hell of a lot harder, especially when you got to the playoffs. Because they were playing some hellified teams. But when I think about that division and I think about the coaching in that division, I think this coaching is up to par with an Andy Reid. They've seen it all. They've done it all before. And they're going to be able to, and on some days, out-coach Andy Reid because they've been through it all and seen it all. Like I said, these coaches have either been to Super Bowl. I mean, for Pete Carroll, it's Super Bowl and national championships. Same thing with Jim. So it's not going to be as smooth as they're building up those teams. These teams are going to get better in their offseason. They're going to be able to address needs. And you have to think about this. Regardless of what he went through in only his second playoff game, this was only his second playoff game in the form of Justin Herbert. His first year in Jim Harbaugh's system. So it's really going to be interesting to see how he turns it all around within his second year. And like I said, and like you stated, all these other teams in the AFC, Lamar Jackson, those guys, they just re-signed Todd Monken. Wish you wouldn't have signed him so we could have got him back, but I got back in Georgia, but I digress. But these teams have gotten better. They're going to get better. And I don't think it's going to be as smooth as it previously was. Like I said, when you usually see dynasties, you usually see a lot of teams moving very, very smoothly out of their division. I don't think in the coming years, especially now that you got hellified head coaching within that division, that it's going to be as smooth. Now, are they still going to be a hellified team? Yes, they are, but it's not going to be as smooth sailing as it once was. So that's just the gist of it where I stand right about now. And he's going to have to get used to this second crop of players that's coming in because much like with Brady, these first crop of players is leaving. Travis Kelce, the guy who you have the most chemistry with, he's gone. Now we saw what you could do with Xavier Worthy. Now what are you going to do when Rashee Rice comes back?
I think he'll be fine.
Are you going to still have the same chemistry as he did? Is he going to be a step slower? Who's going to be your number one receiver? How are you going to be able to build chemistry with this new tight end that you have, which has seemingly been, quote unquote, your BFF the entire time?
Well, here's a suggestion. Bring back Eric Bieniemy. Bring back EB.
Well, EB is already I think he has a job with Chicago, BRF.
Oh wait, yeah, he's the running back.
Yeah, running backs coach with the Bears.
Yeah, he's in Chicago right now. So,
but if you could get an offensive coordinator, but the thing is with Andy, I still trust Andy as far as with the play calling and stuff like that. Patrick Mahomes, I believe he'll be fine with the talent that he works with, because obviously you're going to play with a generational type of quarterback like him. He's just going to find ways to get the ball. It was just shocking to me, champ. And again, it's no shame because again, it was the Eagles D line. But Kansas City, the second time in the Super Bowl, their offensive line, they got exposed badly. And they got beat down badly. And I just expected, I just wanted to see a better performance. I'm like, okay, where's your heart? Where's your pride? Okay, fine. You may not win the Super Bowl, but at least show me something. And in that Super Bowl, it just looked like somebody just ripped their heart out of their chest.
They did. The Philadelphia Eagles did.
Yeah,
They did.
if you really look at this Super Bowl, it's something about these coordination games. You know, this is going to be the Super Bowl to coordinate somebody. It seems like the offensive line always have a hard time doing these quote unquote coordination games. You know, this is supposed to be the game where he's supposed to be the greatest of all time. Remember the undefeated season? Remember the undefeated season that New England Patriots had? That was supposed to be the coordination of them to be the greatest dynasty of all time. Look what happened. Where did they get beat at? In the trenches. In the trenches.
It happens. I get it.
I mean, they got beat in the trenches. And battles, the game of football is won and lost in the trenches. And so, yeah, I mean, we saw guys, although that one was not as, you know, much as a BTA as this one, we've seen offensive line get dominated before. We've seen it. And the thing is, when your offensive line and when you're losing battles in the trenches, it's only a matter of time before the rest of it falls. And this just proves my point, as I like to say always, me being a big man, me being a big guy. Quarterback might be the most important position on that team, but the most valuable position on that team is that offensive line. Because like I say all the time, and you quoted me earlier, quarterback can't throw on his back. And where was Patrick Mahomes at the whole time? On his back. Offensive line is the only position where everybody being better is predicated upon you. And nobody else's performances affect you. You can have the greatest wide receiver. You can have Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Emmitt Smith, and Tom Brady in that backfield. You give them a lackluster offensive line, I guarantee you ain't going nowhere. So that proves my point. Quarterback might be the most important, but the most valuable position on that team is that offensive line. And when they have bad games and when they're not available, as we saw in Patrick Mahomes' first Super Bowl, when he played against Brady, it shows every single time. It shows. I don't believe they're done winning Super Bowls as of yet, but like I said, it's not going to be as smooth as it was before. But I'll be a fool to believe that this is going to be the last one. No, you know, as long as Andy Reid is on that field and, you know, you got that organization in place the way it is, it's going to be a good one. And the Chiefs, I know the world just now figured this out. I know the world just not figured this out. But the Chiefs has always been a hell of an organization. Look at the players that have come through there. Derek Thomas, Steve Bono, Priest Holmes, Trent Green,
Tony Gonzalez.
Yes. So the Chiefs have always, and then, you know, Doug Peterson, him being the general manager of that team back in the day with Marty Schottenheimer in that team. And let's not forget Neil Smith. So they've always been a hell of an organization. They've always been an organization with talent, even before Andy Reid. So this is one hell of an organization. They just didn't have the Super Bowls to back them up. So this has always been a hell of an organization. They just gonna have to work a little bit harder in order to get another Super Bowl, because guess what? A lot of things is going to get ready to come at you and fall apart within that organization as far as players that you're going to have to get rid of pretty soon.
But I still believe that the Chiefs have the future. Like you always, in the words of Ric Flair, champ, to be the man, you got to beat the man. The Eagles were the man in that Super Bowl in that day, and they deserve every bit of it. But as far as saying that it's over for Kansas City, as far as competing for Super Bowls, let's not go that far. That's all I'm saying.
That's just like saying that I'm done eating KFC. That ain't gonna never be over.
You could have used Churchill. You could use Popeyes.
We'll go with Popeyes. We gonna go with Church's. The bag too greasy. You know what I'm talking about? So,
I had chicken. I had chicken for dinner, man. After I got off of work, man, I'm done thinking about chicken right now.
But anyway, let's continue on with the Super Bowl, the halftime performance. All right, y'all. I did not. I'm not going to give too much opinion. I didn't watch the halftime performance because I was so disgusted with the game. I did see Serena Williams, the GOAT, crip walking. I ain't got no problem with it. And for those who want to say that she's trolling to get at Drake because they dated at one point, no. Kendrick, first of all, it's not the first time Serena Williams has crip walk. We saw her in the Olympics. Kendrick, I think she mentioned this on social media that her and Kendrick and his team, they reached out about possibly doing it in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And Serena was like, wow, in the Super Bowl, the biggest stage? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. And that's what happened. I think Serena Williams just did it because of paying respect to Kendrick. She's from Compton. Kendrick's from Compton.
Yes.
That's another reason. Number two, let's not pretend or act as if we've never seen the crip walk in the Super Bowl before. We saw it 3 years ago with Snoop. When Dr. Dre, Snoop, Mary J. Blige, 50, Eminem, they performed in the Super Bowl back in Los Angeles. Okay, so let's not act like it's unprecedented. Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing new. It's new. Nah. And plus, I don't agree with what Stephen A. Smith had to say. Well, I don't. Let's just leave it at that. You just go and do the research. Look, I just think that Serena Williams just did it was because of Kendrick, because of the Compton ties, because of the music, of course, the success. BRF, you mentioned last week on my show, Not Like Us, the greatest diss track of all time. In your opinion, you made that argument. I just think that's why Serena Williams did the crip walk. And again, I ain't got no problem with it. What better way to do it in the Super Bowl, the biggest stage? As far as Kendrick's performance, I saw a little bit of it on YouTube. I mean, it was good. Once again, Kendrick Lamar establishing himself as one of the greatest. The Super Bowl commercials overall, I did not like. I did not like overall. I just, they were boring. I mean, distasteful to say the least. Just distasteful. I'm sorry. I did not find the commercials that entertaining to me at all. I'm sorry. I did not.
I'm sorry. You saw the one with the seal. I don't know what to say. Seal.
All the commercials you give us to seal. Come on, that's the best you can give us. That's like Vince Russo coming up with his idea with Hulk Hogan and Jeff Jarrett on the Bash at the Beach. Come on now.
I don't know what to say about that, but the seal commercial, and not to mention, I think it was a coffee creamer commercial. You remember the coffee creamer commercial, BRF? That one was very, very creepy to say the least.
I think I remember the coffee creamer one. Yeah,
the dude was over there sleeping, and then yeah. But that one was a very, very creepy commercial. There was a lot of creepy commercials on on the Super Bowl.
I think there was another reason for creepiness because there was a certain individual in that Super Bowl.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's keep it rated G. And you be talking about how I be pushing the envelope. So, but I will say this, man. I like Kendrick's performance, man. Look, I think that people are just looking for something to complain about. That's just me. I was not entertained. Well, in the great words, and I hate to quote Steve Harvey, but I remember one line he said on Kings of Comedy when he was playing a lot of old school music. If this ain't for you, then darn it, this ain't for you. Turn the channel. And not only that, man, look, for people to be talking about how boring it was the highest rated halftime show
Yes.
in history. It was the highest rated. Matter of fact, it drew a bigger audience than the Super Bowl itself. So for people who keep saying, well, I just find it entertaining. Well, somebody was watching the damn TV. I know I wasn't the only one. I know it was like 8 people in the house with me, so I know I wasn't the only one. So I'm just going to be very, very honest. Now, granted, you may not have liked the messages that he was sending, but it was a good performance, and, watching Kendrick's concerts and stuff like that, he's never been the type of jumping all around all over the place like that. So even when he had his concert in Los Angeles, you saw that. So I tip my hat off, man. 2 of the biggest weeks for hip hop and music, arguably in history,
Oh, by the way, champ, that Super Bowl halftime performance from Kendrick, I'm reading it right here. The Apple Music Super Bowl halftime show drew an average of 133.5 million viewers across television and digital platforms from 8:30 p.m. to 8:45 p.m., up 3% versus 129.3 million viewers from last year's Super Bowl.
Yeah. Not to mention, he beat 3 of the his ratings, Kendrick Lamar's ratings, beat 3 of the biggest icons in music history. It beat Prince, Michael Jackson, and Beyonce. Do you know how hard it is to beat Prince in the ratings? How hard it is to beat Michael Jackson at his peak? God rest his soul in ratings. How hard it is to beat Beyonce. Beyonce tickets just went out. Most of them sold out in my state. I couldn't get a ticket. I was trying to go to the Beyonce. They sold out at the state, they sold out at Phillips Arena. Oh, it's State Farm Arena. Now, my bad, BRF. They sold out at State Farm Arena. So, yeah. So you beat those icons in ratings. But people are talking about, but I didn't like it. Well, turn it off. I don't know what it is about it these days when you don't like something. We feel we gotta stare at it. It's kind of like, you ever been in a house with somebody and they say, and they got some real nasty food right there, and they say this nasty, taste it. This nasty, taste it. Or they some stink in the sink or something like that. This stink, smell it. Is that what you really gonna do? I mean, it's an oxymoron to look at something that you don't like. I mean, if you don't like it, then just turn the channel. There's plenty of opportunity. And hell, if you didn't like that halftime, they had another show over on Tubi that you could have watched. So stop complaining. Like I said, I believe that a lot of people just was looking for something to complain about. I believe that, the second, and I'm going to be real careful about what I say, I believe the second that people feel a least bit uncomfortable, they're going to try to complain about it and say something about it. And that's what I believe that just happened. I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to find a reason to be uncomfortable with it, because guess what? This is not my cup of tea. This is not the first time that hip hop has performed on the biggest stage. We saw that with Dr. Dre and Snoop and Eminem a few years back. We saw Nelly perform on the Super Bowl. We saw Nelly perform. This ain't the first time we ever see hip hop on the biggest stage. And good, we saw Maroon 5 put on one of the worst concerts ever a couple of years ago. So let's stop complaining. And I like Maroon 5. I like She Will Be Loved. I listen to them. My sister got me listening to them back in middle school. So let's stop. If you're not going to complain about Maroon 5 and how bad that was and how bad a lot of other performances was, stop complaining about Kendrick. Stop trying to look at something to complain about because you just want to feel uncomfortable. People who complain about anything, that's like I'm out on eating public. They probably might get offended behind that.
No, because they're afraid that you may eat all their food. That's why.
But I'm not gonna come over there and grab it off their plate. You know what I'm saying? Just I might ask politely. Let me get a piece of that sandwich. I'm just playing, people. I'm not gonna do that. This is all fun and games.
BRF.
Okay. I'm gonna start with this. To a particular demographic who's complaining about the Super Bowl and how boring it was, and how you didn't understand. Okay, now the big one is how they didn't understand anything that he was saying. To a certain demographic, you can read between the lines of what I'm about to say. If you didn't understand what Kendrick Lamar was saying during that Super Bowl, but yet you could put on a Pearl Jam album, I don't want to hear you complain. I don't want to hear you complain. Because let me tell you something. The only song I know from Pearl Jam is Jeremy Spoken. And that's the only word I knew from that song. And that's another conversation.
Wait a
That's
minute. You
another
didn't know Even
conversation.
Flow? You mean to tell me you didn't know Even Flow?
That's the only other song I know from them. That's it.
You didn't know Present Tense either. You didn't know Present Tense from Pearl Jam.
Heck no, I wasn't in the Pearl Jam like that.
Come
No, I
on,
wasn't. I was not in the Pearl Jam like that. You pretty much named the only two songs I know from them, like straight up.
And probably the only reason why you knew Even Flow because that was Jericho's entrance music back in WCW, right?
No, I've heard that song well before that. I knew he got the concept of his intro song from that song, but I'd heard that song before. But yeah, like if you're gonna talk about you couldn't understand it and you'll listen to a Pearl Jam album, I want to hear you complain. That you just complain for obvious reasons. And I mean for obvious reasons. You can read between the lines. But that halftime show was well done and well put together. And really, I think one of the other biggest things that people want to complain about is, oh well, he didn't do like the really, he didn't do like all of his hits. He didn't do the songs that people knew. Let me tell you something, that's a you problem. If you didn't know them songs he played during the halftime show, Humble is arguably his biggest song. DNA is arguably in his top 5 or 6 as far as his biggest songs. And I mean, come on, bro, he did Euphoria, which has been played a crap ton. He did Squabble Up, which has been played a crap ton. Don't even get me started about Not Like Us. It's the biggest song of 2024. And then the Luther song with SZA is arguably one of the hottest songs out right now. And then he did All the Stars with SZA, which is arguably one of the greatest movie soundtrack songs of all time. So don't get here and talk about, oh well, he didn't do stuff he didn't do songs we knew. That's a you problem. Get out the house, touch some grass, listen to some good music. I mean, that's a you problem. Okay, we gonna leave that be. That was a really good halftime show. It was a really good halftime show. And just from the word go, you could just see what he was trying to establish with that. And I mean, he even said it in one of the lines, 40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music. I mean, come on, bro. Like, bro, from that one line alone is all you need to know what that performance was meant to do. It wasn't necessarily meant to just entertain you. It was meant to put some words out there for you to really understand what's going on in the world today. Kendrick Lamar is a thinking man's rapper. He make you think. And one thing he does as good as anybody out there, he makes people just a wee bit uncomfortable, which is what he did. And people don't like that. People don't like that at all. Well, guess what? Sorry, not sorry. That's all I got to say. Kendrick was awesome. He was awesome. That's one of the better Super Bowl halftime shows. The ones that complain about it, it wasn't for you. and I just leave it at that. But I mean, you know what though? I said I said this before, and I'm gonna say it again to the homie Drake. Don't bother going to the Grammys. Don't bother going to the Super Bowl. Player, just sit them out. Sit them out.
Oh, they know. They know. I already clipped the video for it and everything. They already know.
You don't need to go no more anytime soon. When the entire Mercedes-Benz Superdome repeats A minor, it's time to sit this out. You gotta let it go. And Kendrick was just throwing out little subtle shots the whole game. The A minor necklace, which was like, chef's kiss, the little A minor necklace, the lowercase a. We knew where he was going. That was a chef's kiss. And then when he said the line and looked directly into the camera when he said it, because I mean, just little lines. I want to do their favorite song, but you know they love to sue.
Sometimes
And
you gotta pop out, folks.
oh my God. Oh man. And then when he hit the say Drake Park in line and he just looked dead into the camera, I'm just like, he is trying to literally professionally assassinate that man if he hasn't already. And then the whole stadium saying A minor was just like the cherry on top. I'm like, Drake, don't go no more. Don't if they invite you to the Super Bowl, say I respectfully decline. Just don't go. Just don't go. Don't go. Don't go. That was outside of the lyrical professional assassination we witnessed that night. It was a well done show. It had a strong message behind it. And it was Kendrick being true to himself. And I thought at the end of the day, that's what we want our artists to be, is to be true with themselves. That's one thing you can never say about Kendrick Lamar, is that he's never true to himself. He's been true to himself from day one, since the Section 80 mixtape and Good Kid, Mad City, and Pimp a Butterfly, and Mr. Morale and the High Steppers, and the Damn album. He's never not been true to himself. So you see people talking about, you see some people talking about, him trying to be relevant and stuff like that. That man has sold tens of millions of albums. This man just won 5 Grammys last week.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
How is he not relevant? This is the most relevant. This is the most relevant he's ever been.
Because BRF, it's just people who don't understand Kendrick Lamar or don't understand his music. If you're not a fan of his music, okay, fine. If you can't say nothing nice about the person, don't say nothing at all. If you don't want to listen to his music, change the channel, watch Netflix, go do something else. Just say, I'm not a fan of his art or his music, whatever the case may be. My thing is, that's fine. I ain't got no problem with his performance. Some people may have a problem with it because I mentioned the Serena Williams thing. To me, that's not a big deal. That's nothing. That's just a waste of time for people to try to make more of a narrative than it really should be. I mean, and the reason, and look, don't be mad at Kendrick. They picked him because he's hot. Because look at with Jay-Z and Rock Agency. Look at the artists that they've had. They brought in Kendrick. Last year, they brought in Usher. 2023, they brought in Rihanna. Then 2022, okay, because of Cali, Dr. Dre, Snoop, and them. They've brought out a lot of artists hot right now. Of course, they were going to bring in Kendrick because he had the Song of the Year last year with Not Like Us. So it was pretty obvious. And for those who may not like Kendrick Lamar's style of music, then to me, you truly don't understand the pure nature of hip hop or rap.
No.
You really don't.
Hip hop was never designed to make people feel comfortable. It was never designed. I understand over the course of the last, I will say 20 years, it's been a little bit more crossover. It had a lot more of a crossover feel to it. But early hip hop was never designed to make the masses comfortable.
Right.
Matter of fact, let me give people a history lesson. If you crossed over too much in the early days of hip hop, when it was true hip hop, they called you a sellout. If you don't believe that, just ask the great MC Hammer. So guess what?
My thunder.
Yeah, my bad. Great minds think alike. So it was never designed to make the masses comfortable. It was inner city music. It reflects what's going on in the inner city in our communities. It tells a story about what's happening in our community. Now, whether that be partying, whether that be political views, whether that be what's going on anything else. I'm going to say an old saying that I used to love saying when I was talking about music. People love talking about gangster rap and you know how rap makes people feel uncomfortable. Suppose that me, BRF, and PSP just start doing podcasts and start rapping about the 6 o'clock news. Would it be still could be considered gangster rap then? Will it be still considered reality rap then? Or we just informing y'all about what's going on? And I'm not talking about just political stuff. I'm not talking about political stuff. I'm talking about just what's going on the 6 o'clock news, your local news. Would it be still be considered gangster rap then? Or will it be considered political rap or reality rap then? If we're just rapping about what's going on the news? Because that's all hip hop is. It's our CNN. It's our 6 o'clock news. That's all that is. It tells a story. And if you don't want to listen to that story because it makes you uncomfortable, then turn the radio off. Hip hop was never designed. If you look throughout the history of hip hop, if you think about all of the controversial songs that we had just in the 90s alone, in that late 80s and 90s alone, and how uncomfortable it made the masses feel, that tells you how hip hop is. And I'm glad to see a person like Kendrick Lamar getting hip hop back to his roots. Guess what? It's not supposed to make you feel comfortable. It's not supposed to make anybody feel comfortable. You think a lot of people felt comfortable when Outkast said you need to get up, get out, and get something? It made every lazy person want to get off their behind. And if you was a lazy person that didn't want to hear, guess what? You turned it off because you realized they were telling the truth about you. So guess what? Hip hop was never designed to make the masses feel comfortable. Guess what? We just got to a point 20 years ago where they could feel comfortable, where the masses could feel comfortable. In the late 80s and early 90s, when hip hop first started, it was never designed to make the masses feel comfortable. Never. Like I said, if you crossed over too much, you were called a sellout. And they said that in every album. Even EPMD said that. I stick to underground, keep the crossover. Go listen to it. So hip hop was never designed to make you feel comfortable. I understand we're so used to bobbing our head and listening to party rap and drinking lean and doing all of that, doing on the hip hop scene the past 20 years. But guess what? Hip hop with Kendrick is at its roots. So guess what? It's not designed to make you feel comfortable. If you feel uncomfortable, turn the TV off. Turn it off. I mean, he got it on the song. Turn his TV off. He's telling you what to do. Turn it off.
I also think jealousy plays a factor. I do believe jealousy does play a factor with Kendrick because of the accomplishments, the success, to your point, Champ, how he is bringing hip hop back, taking it back from its roots into where it is right now. For those who are not familiar with Kendrick or hip hop music, if you're not a fan of his music, my thing is fine. Watch something else. Again, the only reason why I didn't watch the Super Bowl halftime show had nothing to do with Kendrick. I was just disgusted at the game. I had a legitimate reason. If you just are not a fan of his music, fine, but at least do something else instead of wasting your time crying and complaining. Because guess what? You're trying to ruin or disrupt someone else's fun. Nah, don't do that. Don't be the party pooper. Let people who enjoy hip hop listen to it. Yeah. And if you can't, hey, you can't. That's on you.
Exactly. And you could tell people who are saying this is the first time he's been as relevant as he is. I can tell y'all never heard Control. Y'all remember when he came out with Control? When he said he was the king of New York? Guess what? I can tell y'all was not listening to hip hop back then. I can tell that y'all wasn't paying attention to Kendrick when he made Spiteful Chant. I can tell y'all did not listen when he was making Sing About Me. I can tell y'all wouldn't listen to then, because if you would have taken the time to listen to the songs that he made when he first came out up until now, then guess what? It wouldn't have shocked you, the performance that he had. It wouldn't have shocked you. If you would have followed his career all the way back to the Mad City album, all the way up until now, it wouldn't have shocked you of that performance. And like I said, this is not even the first time he's ever dissed somebody. You remember the Control beat brought out a lot of things. And it caused one of my favorite artists to make one of his best songs. That Control that was made, that Control verse that he did, Kendrick, it caused Big Crit to make Mount Olympus.
And that's the beauty of it.
Oh,
You
And that's
remember
the
Mount
beauty.
Olympus? Yeah.
heck yeah, man! I love Mount Olympus.
But that's the beauty of it, champ. What they're not realizing is, haven't we gotten great hip hop, like with the Drake and Kendrick? Haven't we gotten great hip hop? Haven't we gotten like the beefs and stuff like that? The wars. Isn't that a part of hip hop? Isn't that its true nature?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And thank God that it's look. And thank God that it's the true nature of hip hop because it's all on wax. We're seeing the KRS-One versus MC Shan all over again. And the thing is, people are still going to go see Drake concerts. They're still going to see him right now, just like they did with MC Shan after KRS-One dissed him. Be thankful that it's not a all over beef like the East Coast West Coast rap war was, or like with John 50. Be thankful that it's all on wax. This is a rap beef. It was built. Rap was built on competition, and that's going all the way back to Kool Moe Dee and Busy Bee. All the way back to Kool Moe Dee and Busy Bee. That's how competitive rap has always been. And like I said, hey, look, you never know who might reconcile, man. You know, Kool Moe Dee and Busy Bee, they cool to this day. They have a reunion damn near every single year of how they did on the rap wars. On the free, I think it was I forget the name. It was Freestyle Wars or something like that. I mean, Ice-T and LL Cool J became cool again. Competition is competition, man. You know, competition is competition, you know, and this is what hip hop is all about, man. Hip hop is a contact sport. I mean, even though that, you know, I mean, Big, God rest his soul, he dissed Kwame on Unbelievable. Your style is whack like Kwame and them polka dots. He even dissed Kwame. Hip hop is a contact sport, man. And like I said, that is the true nature of hip hop is competition. And like I said, be grateful that it's not like the East Coast, West Coast rap war. Be grateful that it's not like Jive 50, where things are just kind of going left every time you look around, or like Gaming 50. So be grateful that it's on wax and that each of them have their own audience and they can pick sides without it being a physical or an otherwise violent beef. It's a rap beef. You've seen this before. I mean, and if you're not familiar with rap beefs, you haven't been around hip hop for very, very long.
All right, fellas. Great talk. Let's move on to Aaron Rodgers. His days in New York have been over. The Jets are moving on from Aaron Rodgers. He will not return in 2025. I'm reading an article here from The Athletics, Diana Rossini. And one of the reasons why Aaron Rodgers won't be coming back is because they told Aaron Rodgers to stop being on the Pat McAfee show. They said, I'm reading it here from Diana Rossini. They had a conversation with him of, if you were to stay here, here's how we would want it to be. This to me is Aaron Glenn getting control back. However, that condition from Jets management may have been a moot point. I think no matter what the Jets were going to say, Aaron Rodgers wanted to move on. They wanted to move on because they told Aaron Rodgers, look, you have to be all in. You can't be going on Pat McAfee show. You can't be missing time in training camp. Either you go and make the sacrifices to be a part of this team and do whatever it takes to get us back to prominence, or be out. And I think Aaron Rodgers was like, F this, I'm out. I'm not surprised that it had come to a conclusion like this, because, champ, I brought this up last summer. Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers, who would be the better quarterback that season? And we all picked Kirk Cousins, not because of his talent. We picked Kirk Cousins is because he's a better leader, despite that the Atlanta Falcons drafting his successor, Michael Penix Jr. Kirk Cousins has said and done all the right things. Kirk Cousins hasn't missed training camp. Kirk Cousins, even when he got benched this season, because he did get benched during the second half of the season when he regressed. Look, did you hear anything from Kirk Cousins when he got benched in favor for Michael Penix Jr.? Did you hear Kirk Cousins making an outlandish or controversial statement? No. Kirk Cousins said and did all the right things. Aaron Rodgers, look, man, no matter where you go, he's going to bring drama. That's just who he is. He became more of a Kardashian in New York. I mean, he just has that personality, man. I'm sorry. He's just got that diva personality. He's just like the beautiful girl who looks good and all that other stuff, but there's something ugly deep down inside. There's something ugly about that person, and that's who Aaron Rodgers is. He will cry, he will complain, he will do anything. I'm happy for Aaron Glenn because he doesn't have to deal with Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have to deal with all the problems and situations. But the problem is with the Jets, you don't have a quarterback. And what are you going to do? You can't touch Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. You better hope and pray that they fell. And then suddenly you have them on your lap and then you grab it. I just don't see unless the Jets, you tell me they're going to trade up in the draft to get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. What are they going to do at the quarterback position? With Aaron Rodgers, I'm glad that they moved on from him because, look, the Jets have done their part to make moves for Aaron Rodgers. They got him Devontae Adams. They got him Allen Lazard. They've made moves for him. You went there. I believe primarily he went there for the media because Aaron Rodgers, I've said before, there is a life after football with him. He loves talking. He loves being on Pat McAfee's show. He used to be on Jeopardy. He used to do a lot of things. I think with Aaron Rodgers, if that's how you feel, I think you should retire. Because I feel like, to me, he may say he wants to play football, and he still has some football left in him. But I think it's better suited for Aaron Rodgers. Retire. You're going to the Hall of Fame. You're going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You're one of the top 5 greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. But at the same time, I don't see you making sacrifices at this point. And even though people will look at the numbers, 28 touchdowns to only 11, 12 interceptions, if you really look at it, it wasn't really that good of a season. His time in New York was a cluster. It was a failure. Okay? It was like burnt toast. So the bottom line is, Aaron, I think you should retire because I do see life after football for you. You love talking. You love going on podcasts and TV shows, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. But I don't see you making any sacrifices. You cannot teach an old dog new tricks. You just can't at this point. I'm happy for Aaron Glenn. I'm happy for the Jets organization. Hey, Woody Johnson, don't rely on people to judge football players based off Madden ratings. Got to get some competent people to actually evaluate talent. As for Aaron Glenn, this is a big plus for the Jets because he used to play for the New York Jets. He has a defense to go with it. So I believe he'll be fine. As for the quarterback situation, that is going to be a problem. But I'm glad that they moved on from Aaron Rodgers. I'm glad that they told Aaron Rodgers, listen, we've had enough of your crap. We've had enough of your nonsense. Either you going to do what it takes for us to get the job done or be out. Aaron Rodgers wanted out. Whether we like it or not, that's his decision. Jets, Aaron Rodgers have moved on. Now all they got to do is get themselves a quarterback. And they got to figure out what they're going to do with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. Heck, if I'm Washington, I get one of those 2 wide receivers to complement Terry McLaurin. But that's a story for another day. What's your thoughts, champ?
I'm gonna just be real. If they offer me, let's say, a $200,000 job somewhere on my regular job, to say, hey, look, the stipulation is you can only do 1 show a week. That's PSPs. You know what I'm telling everybody else? I can't. Got to be all in. Like PSP show, that's fine, but all these other shows during the week, you got to cut that out. You got to be all in on your job. guess what? That's a sacrifice you got to make. And if you're not willing to do that, bye. And my thing is, if this was any other quarterback that had not taken that, it'd be all over the media. It would. Can you imagine if I would even if Josh Allen would have said would have said something like that? Would have said I'm not going to stop doing the show. Can you imagine that let's say a Lamar Jackson would have gotten a Joe Burrow, even a Patrick Mahomes, although he's won several Super Bowls?
What if Tom Brady actually said something like that?
If Tom Brady would have said that, would have been labeled as selfishness. I'll do you one even better. Can you imagine if Cam Newton was still in his playing days, on the backside of his career, had 2 losing seasons, and said, hey, in order for you to keep playing, you got to stop your podcast. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. Can you imagine the media crap storm that would have brought up? So if you're not going to be all in, bye. Number one, like I said before with Aaron Rodgers, you cause more problems. You cause more problems than a sabotager at war causes.
Whew.
You cause more problems than a sabotager at war. And a sabotager can cause a hell of a lot. That's how much problems that you cause. You have problems with everybody. It reminds you of that girl that sweat everybody paying attention to in high school. It's just like, I heard you want to fight me. You remember them girls, BRF? I heard you want to fight me. He reminds you of one of them. Just like NWA, always into something. So cut it out. You've had problems everywhere you have gone. You had problems with McCarthy, and he helped you win your first Super Bowl. You had problems with Matt LaFleur when he came in. Robert Saleh, you literally pushed that man on the sideline. You literally pushed him. Let anybody else have did that. Let any other quarterback, let Josh Allen have did something like that. Tony Romo, Tom Brady. Let anybody else have did that. It would have been a hailstorm that would have came down. Got the man fired because you didn't want the play calling to be taken out of Nathaniel Hackett, whatever his name is.
Nathaniel Hackett.
Nathaniel Hackett. Right. I had it right. My bad. Thank y'all for covering for me, bro.
It's all good.
I can't pronounce his name. And then he still got play calling stripped from him. They went and got Devontae Adams for you. They went and got Lazard for you. They went and got everybody for you. And you still couldn't hit the ground if you fell on. So if you're not going to be all in, bye. I got $30 million in cap space. $30 million. I got a hell of a defense. I got some hell of a players on offense. This train is going to go with you or without you. And big ups to Aaron Glenn for seizing control. It's kind of like that strong father. Hey, man, you ain't finna run me crazy. Either you going to do something or you going to get the hell out of this house. And I commend them for that. Either you're going to get part of this program or you're not. I don't have time to mess with divas. One of the great words of someone that's very, very close to me, I don't suffer fools. There's too many of it in the world already. If you want to be a fool, get out. And that's just the gist of it. As far as quarterback is concerned, got free agency coming up. Sam Darnold is a very big possibility. You can look into possibly bringing him back.
I don't know, champ.
It's just a possibility. Russell Wilson, he's available, even if you want to have a bridge quarterback.
Champ, I understand the possibility. Hell, I got a good chance of Lotto. Is that going to happen?
Look, I'm going to just say this. Hey, man, look. As long as you got the charisma and the look, you got a chance. But I digress. And look, there's a draft coming up with some quarterbacks in there. I know we all looking at Sador and we're all looking at Cam Ward. But look, BRF said it, been talking about it too. Are we forgetting about Jackson Dart?
No, actually, there's a possibility Seattle could draft him
Yeah,
because guess what?
Jackson
He
Dart.
could back up the Geno.
I called Jackson Dart to the Seattle Seahawks months ago.
So Jackson Dart, he could possibly be available. Then Kyle McCord from Syracuse, he's pretty good. So there, look, everybody is not going to get a Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert type of guys. Everybody's not going to get those guys. They're rare.
You just
So
need confident.
you just need competent. Now, don't go biting the bullet and buying the form for these quarterbacks, but you need somebody competent right about now that you can build around, and you have some pieces that you can build around them with. So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers' record was worse than Zach Wilson's.
That's saying something.
And guess what? You know, what are you going to do about the quarterback position? Well, you know, it's kind of like a bad ex leaving you. I ain't lost too damn much. So, guess what? So what Aaron Rodgers is leaving? If I lose a 35-year-old Aaron Rodgers, I done lost something. I had a 40-year-old diva who didn't want to do what it takes in order to not only provide stability to this football team after coming off of a devastating injury, but he wanted to be on the Pat McAfee show, get half the staff fired. Not to mention that organization didn't do itself any favors by letting it leak out about Madden ratings. What the hell Madden ratings got to do with anything? You are going by, of all the things in this world, you're going by Madden ratings? That just goes to show me how crazy that organization has become.
As Don King once said, only in America.
I mean, only in America, but good God, come on. You have everybody has a right to be kind of on the idiotic side. I think the Jets just abused the privilege. So It's just, I don't understand. That organization was in disarray. And like I said, I can't get over that part. Madden ratings. Like, come on, man. It's like, come on. And then Jared Judy, he goes up there with Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston at the helm and makes the Pro Bowl. How crazy is that? Like I said, and I think it's deeper than Aaron Rodgers, man. You know, it's easy to point the finger, your fault, your fault, your fault. But the thing is, it starts from the top and works its way down. Woody Johnson, I don't think he had any business owning the team. He kind of like him and James Dolan cut from the same cloth. They both in New York, they both billionaires, and they both looked up into a good situation. And guess what? There's a lot of NFL owners that ain't got no business being NFL owners of teams. Because anytime you let it leak out that you go by Madden ratings in order to do something, and you're letting go your general manager, and the general manager, he didn't do anything wrong. He got the tools that this young man was asking for. He did it. It's just like somebody. It's just like me calling DoorDash and telling them, "Hey, I want all of this, and when you bring it to me, I complain." It's dumb. So I just don't. This organization has been in disarray for a long time, man. They haven't had the superstar coach outside of maybe Rex Ryan in order to get this team in line. There's been too much utter buffoonery in this organization, and I don't understand how they're going to get that squared away. I really don't. And it's got to start from the top. And my thing is, you got to get a good offense. It's more than just a quarterback position. You got to get that O-line straight. You got to make sure you re-sign some of these great players that you already have and keep them under contract. Otherwise, what good is a quarterback going to do? Because you saw, if you need any more evidence that it's more than just a quarterback, look at how the three quarterbacks that you let go are doing right now. Well, the two. You let Sam Darnold go. He go find coaching somewhere. He goes 14-2. He wins 14 games in a loaded division. Geno Smith becomes a Pro Bowler, a Pro Bowler, and leads his team to the playoff to at least 3 winning seasons. At least 3 winning seasons. So that's just more of an indictment on how crappy your organization is, not how crappy the players were. Because guess what? Each player that you let leave, they went somewhere and did something. Not to mention the key offensive lineman that was part of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. Guess who he played for? The Jets. Yeah. So, and granted, he had some injuries, but you know, they didn't want to re-sign him. So he went to the Eagles, became a part of their offensive line, and now he's a Super Bowl champion.
Oh, it's Mekhi Becton.
Yes. So guess what? That just shows how crappy your organization really, really is. When people go somewhere else and constantly are winning, guess what? That's an indictment on you, not on them. So this organization has to be great. People give the late, great Jerry Krause grief about this, but it is true. But it is true. Players and coaches alone do not win championships. Organizations win championships. You have to have an organization committed to winning championships. And it starts from the top down. I guarantee you, if you have a bad owner on that team, they're not winning Super Bowl. Look at Dallas. Look at Dallas. That's a prime example.
And they are surrounded with talent. Talent has not been their problem. The problem is Jerry just doing things his way.
Yeah.
Ego.
Yeah.
But the thing is, champ, with New York, the reason, yes, ownership, you have to look at ownership because, again, they gave Aaron Rodgers, they gave him the keys.
Yes.
And look, Aaron Rodgers became even more than what he was. If you were that way in Green Bay, imagine what you're going to be of all places in New York. Yeah. Even bigger. So, but at the same time, and yes, this is on the Jets organization. But Aaron, this is also on you. Two things could be true, champ, because this is what has been said about Aaron Rodgers. Greg Jennings, Jermichael Finley, Donald Driver. Guys talked about his leadership, his lack of leadership. And the reason why people overlooked it for so long because of how great he is as a football player. Now, all of a sudden, when he's not performing well, he's not living up to his capabilities. Now, all of a sudden, it's being exposed. And so I got to hold Aaron in that aspect as well. But when I look at the Jets organization with Woody Johnson, and I brought it up the first time, why Madden ratings? You can't even take the time to get guys to watch film or even evaluate, even look at workouts or stuff like that. Of all things to use as criteria, you use Madden. That tells us all we need to know. Because the fact that you would use that's just a reflection of how, I don't even want to use the term incompetent. I'll go as far, ignorant.
Hey, if you're going by Madden ratings, I'm looking up something at one point. Albert Haynesworth once had a 94 as a Madden rating. So that's what you want to go. So if you want to go by that, feel free. Like I said, Albert Haynesworth had at one point a 90. Well, my bad, it's a 90. He had once had a 92 as a Madden rating. That was Albert Haynesworth. So if you want to keep going by Madden ratings, go ahead, be my guest. But if you want, because if you want, a lot of guys like Albert Haynesworth love to come in and take your money from you, not do anything. You know that for a fact, PSP. My bad to bring that up. But
no, it's fine. No, it's well documented. So I mean,
if you want to bring in a lot of Albert Haynesworth, because like I said, he had a 92 rating at one point in his career. So yeah, go ahead. Feel free to go by bad ratings. When you have a whole, that's what scouting departments are for. That's what grounds guys are for. Those are what you can say whatever you want to about the New England Patriots up under Bill Belichick's regime. I ain't never heard one of those Bill Belichick guys, Ozzie Newsome, Nick Saban, Thomas Dimitroff, and you know Thomas Dimitroff because he used to be the general manager for the Atlanta Falcons. I ain't never heard them guys talking about Madden ratings. I ain't never heard of neither one of them talk about man rating. Anybody worth it, Bill Polian, any general manager, the great Bill Walsh, any general manager worth it, either Jerry Jones, and he's a general. I ain't never heard either Jerry Jones talk about a man rating.
I wouldn't be surprised if he actually said it though.
I mean, what the? That's the thing that sticks in my craw, because I'm not a general manager of an NFL team, probably never will be, but I know darn well not to go by man ratings. I mean, some of the most mediocre players in NFL history have had high man rating. Hell, Mike Vanderjagt had a 99 as a man rating at one point, and he missed critical kicks. So stop with this whole debacle. If your organization is that bad that you have to go by bad ratings in order to evaluate your players, you need to do something. You need to go somewhere and figure yourself out and return yourself back to sender or do something. Because your brain is clearly going AWOL at this point. Because I don't know what to say. Man ratings. Like I said, there's been some of the most mediocre players with high man rating. Hell, we saw a guy by the name of Gary Walker from the Houston Texans. He had a 94 as a man rating at one point. And he only had a couple good years for the Houston Texans. So if your organization is going by that rather than rating in their scouting department, seeing who's the best player on the board, the best players available, going by their scheme, going by who needs to be here, the age group, and who's on the front and back side of their career, if you're going by Madden ratings rather than what you're supposed to go by, that just says a lot about how your organization lost two quarterbacks that has gone somewhere else and that has taken teams to the playoffs. And lo and behold, if Zach Wilson goes somewhere and makes it to the playoffs, we got to start asking ourselves about that Jets organization, and is it time for Mr. Johnson to sell that team? Because Zach Wilson was horrible and immature. He finally matured when Aaron Rodgers got there. But if he goes somewhere else and takes another team to the playoffs, like Geno Smith and like Sam Darnold, we need to start asking ourselves more questions about that organization, that being the New York Jets, because that don't make no darn sense.
BRF, I know you don't like talking about Aaron Rodgers. Do you want to talk about it or you want to move on?
Oh no. I definitely don't mind chiming in on this, because I mean, he needs to retire at this point, because every single organization that he may go to as a potential, free agency signee, they're gonna want full commitment for him. I would think even the law, and some people, sometimes you want to say, okay, well maybe the Raiders will sign him. Nah, not with Pete Carroll. Not with Pete Carroll though. No, a coach like Pete Carroll is going to want full commitment out of him. So it's like wherever he goes, they're going to want the full commitment to the organization. If he's not going to give it to him, he might as well just retire, because no team is going to sign somebody with his attitude or his mindset. And yeah, like Champ said, let Zach Wilson mess around and get a starting job. And take him to even if he takes him 9-8, if Zach Wilson was to become a starting quarterback and lead a team to a winning record, I thought it was common knowledge. We was already talking about the Jets as far as like Woody Johnson needing to sell the team. I thought that was common knowledge. I thought we would be talking about that. I don't think them conversations just started or would be just starting. I think those conversations are already going on, because he's just shown himself to be a really incompetent person as far as like making front office moves and getting the right people there. I mean, you got to remember, this dude hired Adam Gase as to be the head coach. I don't need to elaborate more. I don't need to elaborate more on that. He hired Adam Gase. That's all you need to say. I mean, poor Zach Wilson, poor Sam. I think Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson had to bite some of that bullet. Lord bless their hearts. That's all I'm gonna say. But I don't know, man. It's kind of I do kind of feel for the Jets fans though a little bit, because I don't think even they deserve this type of torture that the Jets front office has bestowed upon them for years. Not being able to find a franchise quarterback that can give you at least 5 years of relevancy. You think you have one. You thought you might have had a shot with Mark Sanchez, but he was never an elite guy as far as putting up stats. And then, Lord forbid, he's got some of the worst plays in NFL history, butt fumble. Neither here nor there. I don't. But just going back to Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he as great a quarterback as he was. I have him in my top 5 as far as greatest quarterbacks in the history of the league. He needs to retire if he's not going to put in full commitment to an organization, because nowadays there's so much parity in the NFL to where all these teams have a shot. They make the right moves in free agency. They bring the right draftees in. They could potentially make the playoffs. I mean, that's just how the NFL has been the last 10 to 15 years with the parity. Like, you can go from finishing fourth in your division one year to the next year possibly making an NFC championship game. I mean, it's just the parity of the league, and that's just a matter of your scouting department putting in work and your coaches working alongside of them to understand who fits schemes, which players would fit their scheme the best. And it's crazy the talent that's actually on that roster. I mean, you think about a New York Jets, you're like, oh, they ain't got nobody on that roster who's worth any, any weight. They got Breece Hall, they have Braylon Allen, they have Garrett Wilson. Jermaine Johnson got hurt last year, but he was budding. He's starting to turn into somebody of being noteworthy for the Jets as far as being a really good pass rusher. You got Sauce Gardner. Most of us will say he had a down year this past year, but Sauce Gardner, when he's on, is one of the better corners in this league. So it's not like they don't have talent there. They just need the right direction. And I'm glad, and I was happy when I heard Aaron Glenn got that job, because I felt like when he played in the NFL, he was one of the more underrated corners in the league, because homeboy could go out there and put up stats as a corner, and you wouldn't talk about it that much, just from the simple fact you had better corners, you had more well-known corners out there putting up similar numbers. But Aaron Glenn is definitely one of the more underrated corners of my generation, because he was in that generation, like, mid late 90s, early 2000s. He was of that generation, and he was one of the more underrated corners. Like, you didn't talk about Aaron Glenn, but you see his stat line at the end of the year, and you're like, oh, okay. It's kind of like one of those things. It's like you have to put yourself on notice when talking about him. And I'm glad he's coming in, really trying to make a statement with this organization, saying, I am the man in charge. If you want to be here, I will welcome you with open arms, and we're gonna get on the grind, and we're gonna get on the hustle. If you don't want to be here, there's the door. Don't let it hit you in the butt on the way out. And I like people with that approach, because that brings stability. I feel like I would hope in a sense, it would instill a level of urgency into those players too, because at the end of the day, those players with the Jets, they get tired of losing. You would hope, being grown men and being human and having feelings and understanding what you want in life, you don't want to be a loser forever. I don't care how good the money is. The money can be good. You don't want to lose all your life. You want to contribute to a successful team at least once in your career. And I feel like the chance is honestly really there for the Jets, as long as they put the right people in place. So Aaron Rodgers getting kicked to the curb is honestly something that needed to be done for the psyche of that franchise. So now they can move on and really do their due diligence and put their effort into free agency and the draft. Because let's see, where are the Jets in the NFL draft order for this year?
Let me see real quick.
Yeah, I'll look it up as well. We all know the Titans had the number 1 pick in the draft. NFL draft 2025.
Yeah, I definitely think the Titans are going to draft the quarterback. It's just a matter of which one.
I think they'll probably draft Cam Ward, though. If you look at the Jets right now, they have the 7th. They have the 7th overall pick.
Unless they trade up, they're not getting a quarterback.
That's the thing. They're probably going to have to move up in the draft. You're going to have to get at least the number 1 overall pick. You're going to have to give up something to Tennessee in order to get the number 1 overall pick. But here's the problem. They have the 7th overall pick. They still could draft a quarterback. Don't draft Quinn Ewers. Do not draft Quinn Ewers to the New York Jets because, Champ, you mentioned he's a turnover machine. So why would you want that if you are New York? So do you want to take a shot at Jackson Dart? Because it's starting to buzz. I mean, you're hearing a lot of buzz about him going to be a first-round pick. But again, to Champ's point, we've talked about this with Anthony Richardson, and we also talked about this with Will Levis.
I'm gonna just say this, man. Jackson Dart is proven. He's beaten a lot of good teams. He's done a lot of good things, and I think that if somebody gets him in the upper rounds, that he can do it. He came out of Lane Kiffin's system, so Lane Kiffin, although he was not very successful at the National Football League level, because granted, he was another person that was a victim of his organization with the Las Vegas Raiders. Because remember, he didn't want to draft Jamarcus Russell. He wanted to draft Megatron.
Yes, Lane Kiffin.
Yes. So
Kiffin. Yeah, and Al Davis, he saw the Sugar Bowl performance, and from that point, he was like sold on Jamarcus.
Yeah. So he wanted to draft Jamarcus. Mr. Davis did. God rest his soul.
Sure.
But Lane Kiffin knows what a football player looks like. And Jackson Dart, he did a hell of a job this year in the SEC. Granted, this was not the SEC's strongest year because we was just out there just beating the crap out of each other on the way to the college football playoffs. But the SEC was still a pretty strong division. But Jackson Dart is a very, very serviceable quarterback. I think he can play on Sundays. And I think if the Jets got him, as long as they can keep something around him, I think they'll be successful, man, because the thing is, what do you got to lose at this point? You've already failed at trying to bring in these different quarterbacks. You've already failed at trying to bring in a veteran quarterback. That failed. So now you have to do it the conventional way, or you have to go sign a free agent in Sam Darnold, or what you could do is, hey, if you don't feel like drafting somebody, hey, make another call to Minnesota and say, hey, we know that J.J. McCarthy is injured now, but hey, we love to take a chance on him. I mean, depending on what they would ask for, if they ask for a first-round pick straight up, hey, I'll take that. But, I mean, it's really going to depend on what you want to do. But as far as having the problem out of the locker room,
no, you do
got the problem out of the locker room. But the thing is, now what are you going to do with this? How are you going to be part of a solution? And Jackson Dart, I think he can be that X factor within that organization, at least as a serviceable quarterback. I'm not going to put him as a world beater because guess what? We know nothing is guaranteed in this league. But guess what? Hey, anything can happen. And look, if I'm the Jets, here's another thing I'm paying very, very close attention to. Very, very close attention to. I'm paying close attention to what's happening up in Cincinnati over in this offseason. I'm paying very, very close attention. I'm paying attention to see if they're going to redraft T. Higgins, if they're going to re-sign T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Because if they don't, I know that Joe Burrow is going to become disgruntled. And you know what I'm going to do if I'm the New York Jets? If they don't re-sign those two, I'm picking up that phone and say, we'll give you 3 first-round picks in 2 seconds to get Joe Burrow. And see if they say no. The worst they can say is no. I mean, we saw Pittsburgh just do it. We saw Pittsburgh inquire about Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, we hear that.
And he's nowhere near the caliber of Joe Burrow. Nowhere near. So I'm paying attention to what's going on in other places, and I'm keeping my eyes on my own business first. But I'm paying attention to what's going on in other places to see if I could possibly come in and steal your quarterback from you. Because if I can, that off me. I don't have to go looking in the draft to try to reach for someone or try to pick the right person. Because guess what? I already have them right there. But I'm paying close attention to what happens in that what happens in Cincinnati. Because guess what? If they do, I can steal them. But as far as Jackson Dart, I think that would be a good thing for them.
Champ, let me ask you this question. How would you feel if Justin Fields came to the Jets?
I don't know how I would feel behind that because the thing is this. He had a tough time in Chicago. No offensive line. He had a tough time in Pittsburgh. Offensive line a little bit better, but not so much.
Behind that Jets O-line now.
So behind that Jets O-line, I don't know. And now you're at an even more of a disadvantage because you don't have a defensive mind. You don't have an offensive-minded coach, mind you. You have a defensive-minded coach. So I don't know how that's going to be. Justin Fields needs to get with somebody as far as coaching it. I think that he will make a good backup for Matthew Stafford right about now if he comes back. I think he'd be a good backup. Do like Baker Mayfield did. Do like Sam Darnold did. Go somewhere where you can be coached. Pittsburgh, I don't think that was the play. I don't think that Arthur Smith did a great job in utilizing them, and I don't think that Chicago did a great job at utilizing them. You know, they turned Justin Fields into Cordell Stewart up there in Pittsburgh. I'm just going to be real. You need to go somewhere in this free agency where you can be coached. The best two places that you could probably go right now is San Francisco and Los Angeles. Those are two proven places where you can go in order to get coached. You don't need to go nowhere trying to be a starter right about now. You're too raw. Your skills are lackluster. And guess what? You're kind of shell-shocked at this point, if you want me to be honest with you. So you need to go to either Los Angeles or you need to go to San Francisco where you can be coached and learn the game just a little bit more before you decide to step out on that ledge and jump off that cliff. That way you'll have your parachute already ready. That's where he needs to go. He needs to either go to Los Angeles or he needs to go to San Francisco where he can be coached.
I wouldn't mind him in Green Bay, though, as the backup.
Yeah, I wouldn't even mind him in Green Bay. Matt LaFleur can coach him. And that way they won't have to deal with Malik Willis and the possibility of him being in the game again. You know, granted.
My thing is, I think if he goes to the Rams, he's going to be the starter because I think they're going to trade Matthew Stafford.
Well, I mean, if he goes there, like I said, where you can get some coaching, Justin Fields needs an offensive-minded head coach.
And what better person than Sean McVay?
I would love to see him under the tutelage of Sean McVay. I would love to see that.
And he's also got some pieces as well. You have Kieran Williams. You also have Puka Nacua. Depending on what, I don't know if they're gonna move on from.
I think they're gonna trade Cooper Kupp. They're talking too much about it. I think they're trading him.
So they're gonna trade him, but at least it's much better compared to for Justin Fields. I mean, that's like heaven for you compared to what you've had to go through the past couple of years in Chicago and Pittsburgh. You went through hell. So if you could actually go to Sean McVay or San Francisco, you never know. That could actually help. But for Aaron Rodgers, for the Jets to move on from him, this is big because they can move on. His behavior, champ, it was constant. Hell, it was more Aaron Rodgers' behavior was just as much, if not more constant than Hulk Hogan with his lies. That's how difficult it was for the Jets with Aaron Rodgers.
Lord have mercy.
I am a real American. Oh, Lord, let me quit. I crack myself up sometimes.
Speaking of the WWE, speaking of wrestling, I just got a little update right here regarding Charlotte Flair. Let me see if I have it right there.
I know because her and Tiffany Stratton are official. I called it. WrestleMania.
Yes.
WrestleMania. Yes. WrestleMania. It will be Charlotte Flair, Tiffany Stratton for the WWE Women's Championship. They confirmed it tonight. I mean, this was kind of the thinking everybody was going to go, and they pretty much just confirmed it tonight. So, yeah.
And also, big shout out to Michelle McCool. It was announced, ESPN's Get Up, the great Triple H announced Michelle McCool will be inducted to this year's WWE Hall of Fame. It was great to see her with The Undertaker there. Happy for her. Big ups to Michelle McCool. Really good 2025 Hall of Fame draft class, man. But Triple H wanted to do that, because of Michelle, and also he wanted to get back at Taker and Shawn for surprising him for being the headliner for the Hall of Fame, man. But this is great. This is great. What more can you say about the WWE? What more can you say about Triple H and Stephanie McMahon? I mean, big ups, man. Big ups to wrestling. And speaking of wrestling, favorite Diamond Dallas Page moment. BRF, you go first.
Well, considering Diamond Dallas Page is on my Mount Rushmore of the WCW, I got to try and do him justice as far as picking a favorite moment. Because the crazy thing about Diamond Dallas Page is he's a late bloomer. He really didn't become like a superstar until like his late 30s. He became a superstar in his like mid to late 30s. But the blow up was just so crazy. You couldn't help but buy the merch or the action figures or the video games were coming out. Diamond Dallas Page was one of your favorite people to play with just because you wanted to do the diamond cut on each and every person you laid hands on playing WCW NWO World Tour or WCW NWO Revenge. If you haven't played either one of those games, I highly suggest you get a Nintendo 64 and go play them. Two of the better video games wrestling you'll ever play. But I digress. Favorite Diamond Dallas Page moment. To be honest with you, I would probably have to go. This is definitely it's definitely a WCW moment. This was definitely peak DDP. A lot of people will say the first time he won the world championship, and that moment was definitely up there. But honestly, one of my favorite matches was Starrcade 1998 when he wrestled the Giant. And that whole storyline, that whole match was built around how was he going to hit the diamond cutter on the Giant, who at the time he was billed at 7'4", 553 pounds. So at that time, it was all that match was built around how's he going to get the diamond cutter on the Giant. And that was a surprisingly good. That was a good match. I mean, that was like prime Paul White, Paul the Giant, prime Giant at the time, where he had his athleticism, he had his ability to move around the ring. Like, I think, in my opinion, he's the scariest athlete. I know some people say Andre the Giant might be the scariest athlete ever. I think it's Big Show Giant. I think he's the scariest just because of some of the things he could do in the ring, like at his peak. I mean, he could chain. I mean, at his size, he could chain wrestle. He could do so many things at his size. I mean, he was scary. So it was the moment where we're getting close to the end of the match. Giant, he's trying to get the choke slam on him. He's got him in the goozle. DDP hits him with a clean low blow. And this was like around the time WCW, they hit a point where I will just say they weren't calling a lot of disqualifications. Referees were letting some stuff go. So he hits a direct low blow in front of the ref. And the Giant it knocks him down and he shakes it off. And he puts him on the turnbuckle. He puts him all the way at the top rope. So the Giant has his hands on his neck. He goes to choke slam him. DDP in midair turns that bad boy into a diamond cutter and lays him out in the middle of the ring and gets a 1, 2, 3. One of the coolest diamond cutters I've ever seen him do. That's why for me, my favorite DDP moments were all the innovative ways he put the diamond cutter on people. Just like you had that moment. There was a match against Eddie Guerrero, I believe it was WCW Saturday Night. He kind of put him in like a rack. He put him in a powerbomb, kind of put him in almost like a rack position, like a show, like almost like an over the top backbreaker position. turns it into a diamond cutter. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. The RKO for me is like the end all be all of finishers. Randy Orton has evolved that thing into a whole nother level. But we got to give the OG, we got to give the originator is just due. Diamond Dallas Page would hit that thing in so many different ways. You're just like, every time you watch, it's like, okay, how is he gonna hit it this week? He'll do it like a bulldog, run him out the corner. He'll throw him against the turnbuckle. He'll run against the ropes. He'll catch him there and just. That's what really got Diamond Dallas Page over. It was just his ability to hit the diamond cutter from any spot in the ring. It didn't matter where you were, he could catch you. And that's what ultimately really, really got him over. And his promo work. Underrated promo guy, underrated mic worker was Diamond Dallas Page. But yeah, any chance I got to see the diamond cutter hit on somebody in a way you're not expecting it was just like that was peak Diamond Dallas Page. And he did, and hey, we're not gonna say he didn't have good matches. He arguably gave Goldberg his best WCW match at Halloween Havoc. He arguably gave him his best match. Was it Halloween Havoc or Super Brawl? I think it was Halloween Havoc. It was Halloween Havoc. It was Halloween Havoc. He arguably gave Goldberg his best match in WCW. The matches he had with Sting were always bangers, and just, like I said, he's on my Mount Rushmore of WCW. My Mount Rushmore of WCW is Goldberg, Sting, Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page, and I'll leave it at that.
Champ.
Oh man, love the diamond. Hey man, look, you could attest to this, BRF. Remember when guys used to come running down, in the hallway in middle school, elementary school, diamond cutter. So
all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Before the RKO, it was the diamond cutter, man. And what's so funny about that? It was just like the RKO because they always used to say, "You never see it coming." It was crazy. So. Love that, man. That was a big part of my childhood. Going down there, diamond cutter, you know what I'm saying? Long before people was doing the RKO and doing it for views and clicks on the internet, we was doing that stuff in the hallways at our high school gyms and our middle school gyms, all the way back at elementary school when Diamond Dallas Page was at his peak. So big ups to Diamond Dallas Page. Look, I gotta say this. He won Fall Brawl War Games in order to get that match with Goldberg at Halloween Havoc. And that was a star-studded match. You had him, Piper, and the Ultimate Warrior on Team WCW. You had Lex Luger, Kevin Nash, and Sting on NWO Red and Black. And then you had Stevie Ray and Hulk Hogan on the and Bret Hart on Team NWO Black and White. So that was a star-studded war game. So him winning that in order to get his shot at the WCW title, to get his shot at Goldberg, was crazy. And I love that for him. Not to mention, people don't even realize, and I'm just going by memory here, so many people challenged him in order to take his place at Halloween Havoc. Remember when Raven challenged him to take his place at Halloween Havoc? Alex Wright, just to name a few. They tried to challenge him in order to take his place at Halloween Havoc. That one was good. The most underrated rivalry, arguably, in the world was him versus the Macho Man Randy Savage. That was the most. I think that was in 90. I think that was in 97, wasn't it? Was it not?
I believe it was 97.
In Slamboree, Tupelo, Mississippi, and it was a lot of controversy behind that one. And matter of fact, that was Wrestling Rivalry of the Year. And remember when he disguised himself as La Parka in order to the Savage in the Diamond Cutter?
Yes,
that one was cool. Facing Goldberg and giving Goldberg his best match at Halloween Havoc, that was good. Him winning the European title in WWE against Christian. I know that wasn't the WWE title, but that did prove that he can do something in the WWE. I'm glad they did not just make him a sideshow act. So I'm glad that he won the European title in WWE. Oh, ain't nobody brought this up. I'm so surprised. Remember when they thought he was about to join the NWO Black and White?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Remember when they thought he was about to join Black and White? The welcoming committee, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash came out, gave him an NWO shirt. All of a sudden, he goes to shake his hand, pulls him back, bang! The crowd just goes wild. Then he pulls down the rope and escapes through the crowd. Look, long before anybody made it popular, DDP was going through the crowd. He was going through the crowd. And I think Edge and a lot of other guys followed suit after that. He was going through the crowd, I mean, without security. So Diamond Dallas Page is he's one of the all-time greats. I hate that I wish we could have seen a little bit more of him had WCW been alive. And I hate the fact that, a lot of, oh yeah, let's not forget Jay Leno, the whole Jay Leno moment. Jay Leno, him being on the Jay Leno show. Not too many people get to do that, man. I never forget, and I watched that. Hey, I got a friend of yours, Diamond Dallas Page, take him out of here. So, and I actually thought that was real. I'm like, ain't no way they got the fight on the night show. I mean, they came over, the NWO that came over and took on the Tonight Show, and then DDP and Jay Leno ran them off. Then that Hog Wild, Roll Wild when they was in Sturgis, with that wrestling match with Kevin Eubanks coming out, that was good. The match was kind of like what it was, but that was a big moment for wrestling. It draws more fans because who didn't like Jay Leno if you was the Night Show fan? So,
yeah,
I mean, a lot of great moments for DDP, man. I just hate on the tail end of WCW, he got caught up in the Russo curse. But then again, Russo did put him over and finally gave him the opportunity to give him his first WCW title.
May I intrude, Champ?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Russo came up with the idea for David Arquette to win the title?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. But great minds think alike as usual, man. But yeah, I hate that he had
Diamond Dallas Page hated the idea, and Bischoff was the one to oversee it, and Bischoff was willing to do it all because he wanted to be a team player.
Yeah, I hate.
But they knew it was a terrible idea.
Yeah,
so many things they could have did outside of giving David Arquette the world heavyweight champion.
No disrespect to David Arquette. Nothing against him as a human being, but it is horrible nevertheless that a guy who's had no experience in the wrestling business, he gets the title. And shout out to David Arquette because Booker T actually gave him credit. There was one time in which David Arquette told Booker T how many times you've won the title. Booker T told him, I ain't won any.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate, but I hate that he didn't get a major push by WWE. I understand him winning the European title, but I hate that he was such a late bloomer. And I think being on his age played a part in it as well.
Oh yeah.
I hate that him getting the WWE so late. I think if he would have got there when he was at his peak in WCW, I think he would have been a great player. I think they could have booked him a lot more. But yeah, tricking the NWO, winning Fall Brawl War Games, the Macho Man rivalry, the La Parka, giving Goldberg his best match, and a lot of great moments for the great DDP, man. And I watch a lot of his motivational speaking stuff, but I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder, but I like DDP. DDP was and still is. And, he's been wrestling for 5 decades. And, this one was, it touches me because of the nostalgia of it. Like I said, I was a mere child when I was watching DDP. And even when he went to WWE during the invasion angle, that was something special just to see him in the WWE ring for the first time. And so there's a lot of other moments, but we got to keep it rated G because it was the moment that I want to speak of it was a big moment for wrestling. Unfortunately, it's tainted because of who was involved. So
My favorite moment of Diamond Dallas Page when he won the title the first time, and especially how he fooled NWO. But it's what he's doing right now. I mean, you look at what he's done for some of the wrestlers, Jake the Snake Roberts, before Wrestle Soul Scott Hall. You look at what he's doing for a lot of wrestlers. Tip your hats off to him. And he has becoming a motivational speaker, a motivational guy. I mean, he's the wrestling version of Tony Robbins. And he just finds a way. And I gotta give major kudos to Diamond Dallas Page for that. And the fact that he was able to be that accomplished at such a late bloomer, because normally that doesn't happen. You're supposed to have success when you're young in your career, but for him to have that late of success, I mean, wow. I just, to your point, champ, and as you always say, great minds think alike. I just wish Vince Russo could have utilized them better, but unfortunately, he had to be subjected to Vince Russo. Ask Jim Cornette. I mean, his colorfulness self. But Diamond Dallas Page, as a motivational guy, I mean, he helps out people. Shout out to one of his ex-wives because she was the one who convinced Diamond Dallas Page to try yoga. Because at first, Diamond Dallas Page did not want to try yoga. He thought it was silly. But no, it's actually a great way to help out with stress, a lot of other things. Diamond Dallas Page, the work that he's doing now to help people off whatever problems they have, substance abuse, weight issues, whatever the case may be. If you need help, go look at Diamond Dallas Page. Go look at some of the great things that he's done. And I think that's important to give recognition for, especially the hard work that he does, man. So tip your hats off to Diamond Dallas Page.
I want to two more quick things. First off, the entrance music, the peak entrance music, smells like Teen Spirit, Nirvana. The way he took that and made it his own. That and Champ talked about before walking before the crowd entrances were cool. DDP was doing that, and just the energy that it brought. That his entrance music, and then the pyro where he did the diamond sign and he did the bang and the pyro, and then he runs through the crowd and just gets everybody lit. Was just, hey man, that was peak. I mean, he was just getting over in so many ways. But let me tell you something. I keep track of that, him and what he's doing with DDP Yoga and just some of the amazing things he's done with that. I'm telling you right now, if he gets Lex Luger to walk again, bro, I might have to try. I might have to get on that myself. If he gets Lex Luger to walk again, I might have to seriously consider doing that myself for weight loss purposes. Because I mean, he practically saved Jake the Snake Roberts' life. He had practically saved Scott Hall's life before God rest his soul. He went through the hip surgery, and all the complications came after that. Like you brought up Butterbean, you brought up Marcus Bagwell. I think he's trying to do something. He's trying to do something with Scotty Riggs now too. Just like so many wrestlers he's trying to help. And I'm like, and Butterbean, you brought up Butterbean. If he gets Lex Luger to walk, like
that's a
bro,
miracle. That's a miracle.
I'm telling you.
Absolutely. But shout outs to the great Diamond Dallas Page, man. And next week for the Sports PSP pod for wrestling, the coach. Favorite Jonathan Coachman moment.
I like that.
Yep.
That's a good one.
And last one, BRF, I'll let you go first because you mentioned this before. You have a Yin Yang Twins playbook. Favorite Yin Yang Twins track.
Bro, yes, man. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. When the crunk movement was at its peak, like of course you had Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, of course, but it felt like the Yin Yang Twins were like step and step with Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, and like two of the greatest songs of that crunk era was Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. I'm talking about Salt Shaker, and I'm talking about Get Low. Get Low was peak. Yin Yang Twins. ATL, bro. That song has one of the greatest hooks in the history of songs. If you know, you know. We don't need to repeat it because if you've heard Get Low, you know the hook of that song. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Just peak. That was peak Atlanta hip hop at the time. I'm telling you. But honestly though, they have so many more really banger songs outside of Salt Shaker and Get Low. They had
What's happening?
What's happening with Trick Daddy. They had Whistle While You Twerk. They had Twerkulator. They had
Ay,
they
ay,
had
ay.
Say Ay Ay Ay. They had Naggin. They had George Dome. So many good tracks. So many good tracks. Like just you can't. They're like one of for me. I think they're one of the more underappreciated groups just because of the time that they were like popular in. It was like a real, it was crunk, but it was also like a real dance craze era too. Just when it was just so much going on, particularly in the South at the time. But like there was not like a track, and the Yin Yang Twins weren't on it. And oh man, okay, and I'm about to tell you probably my favorite Yin Yang Twins song of all time, and the fact that they even had the guts to do this song made it as popular as what it was. And I'm talking about the Whisper song.
Yeah,
The Whisper song.
I love
The
it.
Whisper song. The Whisper song. I'm sorry. Speaking of one of the greatest hooks in the history of hip hop and music, if you know, the Yin Yang Twins were one of the, like, some of those hooks were if you know, you know. And when I say the Whisper song, trust me, you definitely know. So yeah, that's probably my favorite song. Like the original and the remix. Just the remix because it's the only time that's like the first time I'd heard free rap on the song. And
Yeah,
I didn't even know she could go like that. Man, let me tell you something. I think that's probably like the whisper song was just so it was innovative. It was something different. They literally whispered through the whole song pretty much. So innovative, so different. But it was like they put their flair and their charisma into it. And that was peak D Rock and Kane, man. I mean, what can you say about the Yin Yang Twins that ain't already been said? They're one of the more underrated groups in the history of hip hop, and we need to give them fellas their flowers because they helped carry Southern hip hop for a good 2, 3, 4 years with a lot of the songs that they were putting out because they never put out bad records. They never put out bad records. They never put out bad records. And just shout out to the Yin Yang Twins. They did Atlanta hip hop so proud, so well in the early 2000s. And I ain't even said Bedroom Boom. I ain't even said Shake with Pitbull, which is another underrated classic. They just had bangers on top of bangers. So shout out to the Yin Yang Twins. But wait, the Whisper song is probably my favorite song. But they got some, man. Like I said, I probably got a whole playlist that I'm proud to still rock. The Yin Yang Twins were my group for a long time. Shout out the Yin Yang Twins.
Oh, it was what's happening for me, and then Whistle.
Mm.
But shout out to the great comedian Dave Chappelle. Remember when the Chappelle show when he impersonated? Remember when he impersonated Lil Jon? What?
What?
Yeah. Okay. Oh my god. That was hilarious, man. I mean, love watching the Chappelle show, but what's happening? What's happening for me? And then the Whistle song. And Ay Ay Ay. Those are my favorite tracks from the Yin Yang Twins. Champ.
hey man, yo, y'all stole all the damn songs already, bro. So, hey, man, look, I gotta say my favorite song is "Shaking Like a Salt Shaker," and it's because of one verse. The one verse only. Get crunk with it. Get loose with
Get
it.
loose with it. Like Sean said, let Bruce it.
Like shots. Hey man, because Bruce my favorite comedian, one of my favorite comedians, man. He is one of my favorite comedians, man. So to see him, Bruce with the ponytail, and if you know, man. Bruce been one of my favorite comedians since Comic View. You know, because how smooth that he was. You know, look, that dude could wear the hell out of a suit.
Oh yeah,
Bruce could wear a suit, man.
Comic Views. Go check out his days at Comic Views.
Hey, and he hit that line, and you know which line I'm talking about, and it looks good on you.
So, yeah, I used to love Bruce, man, especially that McDonald's joke. I remember he told the McDonald's joke. He took the girl to McDonald's, and he said, you know, I ordered a number one. She said, I want a number one. He told her, I said, shut up. Give her a number two. I give her number two. So, man, that was ever see him in that video, you know, like Shaw said, let Bruce hit it. That was classic, man. That was shaking like a salt shaker, man. And man, all them songs you just named, man. BRF, you know this for a fact, man. Going to the clubs back then, even when we was in high school, and going to the block parties back then, man. That's when I love the Yin Yang Twin, because that's when partying was at its peak, man. They still had the dance floor in the club. This is before the bottle cultures, before you trying to outbuy bottles with somebody. This is when you used to make bets on how many dances you can get before you left out the joint. This is when you was making them bets on, bruh, I get more dances than you do before we leave up out this block party. I bet I get more numbers than you before we leave out of this block party. And that's when human interaction was at its best. That ain't to get political. That's just being real. So, I mean, I'm just being honest, man. When we went to parties back then, it was to dance, get your groove on, try to get some numbers, and then get back to the house and brag how many numbers and how many dances that you got. And no group whatsoever other than 8 Ball and MJG helped me get more numbers than the Yin Yang Twin. Because look, BRL, if you didn't get no dance that night, when Salt Shaker, look, you just ain't had no game if you ain't get no dance with Salt Shaker and Get Low came on. You just ain't had no game. If when them songs came on, you would at least get you 2 to 3 dances, or at least get you one number. You just ain't had no game. So for them songs to come out, because you know it's been to bring the ladies on the floor. When Salt Shaker came on, it didn't bring them out quite like back that thing up with Juvenile, but it was damn near close. Because you knew you was gonna be some shaking on that dance floor that night. So I gotta say, Salt Shaker, Halftime, What's Happening, and
I forgot about Halftime. That's a good one. That was the sports anthem for a minute.
Yes. Yeah, man. Look, man, I love Southern hip hop, man. Hey, man, I'm Southern through and through, man. And so that was a special time, man. Going to the party. We need another album for y'all, Yin Yang Twin, man. Y'all need to make another album, get the ladies back on the floor. We start dancing again, man, because in the great words of Goody Mob, they don't dance no more. All they do is this. We need to stop that is, because man, it got ugly out here, man.
Well, we're gonna continue with some good crunk music, because next week, 3 6 Mafia.
PSP digging in the Southern Roots, boy. We finna have ball next week.
He came down to the Southern Forest and got lost. Ain't that son?
Well, I'm telling you,
I'm the New Jersey genius, man. I've been listening to a lot of that stuff back in my childhood. So,
and speaking of the What's Happening song, video game,
Roy Jones,
shout out Midnight Club Dub Edition. Oh, that was a great racing song. What's Happening? They had so many good hip hop songs on the game. What's Happening? They had a song from they had Like a 24 Twister. That song was on that game. If y'all haven't played if y'all ain't played Midnight Club Dub Edition, if you got I think it was a PS2 or PS2 or Xbox, whatever, find that game. It's a classic. Go play it. Have fun. If anything, just play it for the music. That had one of the best soundtracks ever in a video game.
That's amazing, man. That was good, man. That was an epic time, man. I miss the dance floor, man. Bring back the dance floor to the club, man. Let's start interacting with each other once again, man. Let's kill all them bottle wars, man. You gonna drink. Let's get back to interacting and getting them numbers still, man, and doing that, man. Because that's what the party was all about. Was getting numbers, interacting with folks, and you know what, seeing how much game you had, not only with the ladies, but also talking smack just to see who gonna come back and get whooped on Madden. And man, look, when they played these songs, man, I met some of the greatest people in my life. Met some of the greatest people ever, man. So bring back that interaction, man. We need to leave all this new age stuff where it's at, man. So I loved doing it that time, doing the block parties at the club. Because, man, the dance floor when they played certain songs was rocking. I'll never forget, I went to a club down here in Columbus called Big City. The floor was literally rocking when that came on. It was literally rocking. That's how special those songs were, man. So, hey, man, I miss those days, man. If we don't bring anything back from the good old days, let's bring back the dance floor. Let's bring back that interaction. But that was some good interaction, man.
Absolutely. We should definitely do that. And speaking of which, speaking of the good old times, hey, NFL, you're doing well with the ratings. Here's a suggestion. Bring back more of them old school throwback uniforms. That's what you need to do. Atlanta. You know Atlanta. The black one, the black ones in the 90s and the early thousands.
I need to lead the petition on this. I will not rest until Atlanta make the black jersey, red helmet, full-time uniform. Those are one of the with the white pants, one of the best uniform combinations in the entire NFL. The red helmet with the stripe down the middle, with the black with the throwback 90s jerseys, 90s early 2000 jersey with the white pants, bro. Come on, man. In my opinion, top 3 uniform combo in all of football.
Better than the Oilers?
Shoot, yeah. Yes, sir. I'll take that Falcon combo in a heartbeat. Now the old Oilers uniforms were lit. The baby blues, those were lit. Don't get me wrong, but that throwback Falcons combo, man, very very few touching that one. I don't know, man. It's just I don't know. Being a Falcons fan and seeing them bringing those uniforms out every so often. I mean, and it don't even matter. It could be the red helmets, or they could bring back the throwback black old Falcons logo. They could bring that back too, for all I care. That was, man. Let me tell you something. Those old Falcon uniforms today, I love it. I love it.
Man, they need to bring back I like the red one with the old Falcons logo with the old. Yeah, I like the red one. The red one with the. Hey, and while we at it, man, while we at it, bring back Fulton County Stadium while we at it. Make them play outdoors when they come to Atlanta. Make them play outdoors.
Hey, listen, man, ain't nothing wrong going back to the old school ways. That way the game could be more entertaining. Furthermore, it can also teach our younger audience how things were back in the day. And if you try things back in the day, hey, guess what? You're going to have a better time enjoying life. Like, people have forgotten, like, even though we got the PS5s and everything like that, people have forgotten when we had the PS2s or the GameCubes or the Xboxes, the greatest video game football, NFL 2K5. People have forgotten about how great that football game was. And back then, when I had that GameCube, Def Jam Fight for New York, I would play that game literally every weekend.
Remaster that game for us. Please remaster that for us.
Well, not only that, man. Look, bring back NBA Street Volume 2 with that same soundtrack with Jay Smooth and Pete Rock at the beginning. We reminisce over you at the very, very beginning. That's what we want, man. I don't know why EA Sports got rid of EA Sports Big, but that was the biggest mistake they ever could have made, man.
Not only just
Some of the
NBA
best
Street,
games they had was
NFL
EA
Street.
Sports Big. And NBA, NFL Street, SSX. Those are some of the best games they had.
Yeah. And it was successful. So I don't know why. I would love to one day do a documentary on why EA Sports Big went out of business, but that was their best franchise, if you really want me to be honest, because everybody didn't like NBA Live or NBA 2K, but everybody loved playing NBA Street. So, I mean, because NBA Live during that time was kind of going out of style at a certain point. So we was looking for something different. So NBA Street was that. And plus, at the end of the game, the final boss, who better to be the final boss than Michael Jordan?
Right.
And then, because the thing is, and the biggest mistake that I made, I'm just going to be real. I think this was a mistake that everybody made, is you putting them on your team and you playing all the way through them and you get used to using Jordan. But now you can't play with them when you get to the final boss. So, yeah. And then the commentating was off the chain, too. You can't stop your arrogance. You can only hope to contain it. So that was the commentating, the playing at Rucker Park. I think the guy names who was playing with the Timberland boots on, I think his name was Biggs. You had to go over to UK and play him. You had Stretch, who everybody know that was Stretch was Dr. J. Everybody knew that was Dr. J. But that was a special time, man. Like I said, man, the throwbacks, NBA Streets, EA Sports Big. I wish I could do a documentary on that in order to see what happened with that franchise.
You should probably discuss it on your TikTok.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I would love to know what happened with that franchise, man, and do a documentary on it. And if you're looking for a good video game documentary, because I'm a nerd to the core, if you're looking for a lot of documentaries that's on video game, go to YouTube, the channel that you're ruling over right about now, and go to Insert Coin, and it gives a lot of games that Midway made popular, like the Terminator game and all of that other stuff, and
NBA Bowlers.
Yeah, and not only that, did y'all know? And I didn't know this when I was a child. Did y'all know that NBA Jam, the first NBA Jam, outsold Mortal Kombat 1,000 to 1?
Didn't know that.
I can believe that.
I
though.
couldn't believe that. I'm like, Mortal Kombat, that's the greatest game of all time. How did NBA Jams over?
I could believe that though, because NBA Jam, that was like the party game then. Like everybody was playing NBA Jam, so I could kind of believe it without selling Mortal Kombat.
And they said they had, back then, another nostalgia. Back then it was arcades. And they started getting complaints that some of the machines was broke as far as NBA Jam was concerned. What was happening was dude was putting so many coins in order to play NBA Jam that it broke the machine and it overflooded with coins. Coins was literally at the bottom of the machine when they came to come collect the money. So that's something I think y'all need to check out, man. Go to Insert Coin, and it goes over all of the Midway games that was made throughout history, man. That was a good one. But I think EA Sports Big, that was probably the best video game franchise ever, and it's unfortunate that they got rid of it. And now they ain't got. I'm not a big EA Sports fan right about now, like when I was a child. It's like when I was a child, EA Sports was it. You had NBA Live, you had EA Sports Big, Fight for New York, things like that. Now it's just like, I don't know what this is no more.
Hopefully. But look, anything's possible. We didn't think we could bring back NCAA football. So if they can bring back NCAA football, hopefully they can bring this. But fellas, that concludes the end of the Sports PSP pod. Any final words? And also, for those who may not know, TikTok is back on the App Store. So download it, get it as quickly as possible. Even though I still love using my computer with the TikTok thing, I'm going to try to see what I can do by downloading it. But fellas, any final words?
I could kick it. I'll kick it off. I'll kick it off. Shout out to y'all. I love y'all, brothers. It's always a pleasure getting on here every Friday, having a blast, doing what we do best. It's always a pleasure. Um, but yeah, like PSP said, TikTok is back up on the App Store, which means I'm officially back on TikTok. Got a video that I made. Um, it's getting a few views, so I'm gonna get back into the whole content creating, making videos thing because my TikTok is back up and running now. I got it back on my phone. But definitely the link tree is at the bio. Follow my X/Twitter. Follow my Facebook page. Follow my IG. Definitely follow my IG. And also, well, Champ might have a little announcement as far as IG that he'll probably want to get into. But hey man, the topic not thought about is a topic not talked about. It's always a pleasure sharing the stage with y'all. It's always a pleasure having this platform to just kind of, just invite everyone and have everyone that cares enough to want to come in and cut it up with us and talk sports and have a blast. I mean, it's what we love to do and we enjoy sharing it with y'all and continue love and support. We appreciate it and we're gonna continue rolling this out. So shout out to everybody who follows and we're gonna keep it pushing.
Absolutely. Undisputed world champ.
Oh man, great show. Kind of speechless right about now, man, because I didn't expect for us to talk about what we talked about at the end. That was amazing. Look, I know I play and I joke a lot, man. That's part of the show. And just want all of y'all out there in TV land to know that uh, you are loved, you're cared for. Treat your people right. Don't take anything for granted. Don't be, don't hold no grudges. Don't be mean. Don't be surly. Just make sure that you go about everything the right way and make sure that you treat everybody right. And tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, make sure you treat the women in your life right. Especially with everything that's going on in this world. So like I said, I play and joke a lot on the show. It's part of the character. I have to be the comedic relief. So, but in reality, we have to treat the women right in your life. Make it the best weekend you possibly can with them, and make sure they feel cherished this weekend, and make sure that you provide a place of safety and protection for every last one of the women in your life. Because without them, we couldn't do what we're doing. Without
Amen.
the women in my life, I would not be able to walk on here and do platforms. One of my best friends, she watches our show every week. So, remember PSP when I was telling you about, 1 week we didn't have the show. I was walking downtown. She looked at me, ain't you supposed to be on the air? I'm like, no, not this week. So shout out to all of the women in our lives. Make sure you show them their love, give them their flowers, and make sure that you hold them tight and make sure that you provide a safe place for them, man. Like I said, I play and joke a lot, but like I said, it's part of the comedic relief, man. But in all seriousness, treat the women right in your life. This day weekend, make sure you treat them right.
Absolutely. Again, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Make sure y'all doing something. Just like, and also to Champ's point, don't take life for granted. Just be around family as much as you can, because nothing is promised. Nothing is promised or guaranteed. So capitalize every opportunity as you can. Time is the one thing you can never recapture. And you don't want to look back and say, man, what should I've done? What could I've done? Don't think like that. Trust me, I know it's hard for me to do because sometimes I have family problems and stuff here and there, but hope that works out. And I hope it also works out for you. But fellas, as always, thank y'all for hopping on to the Sports PSP pod. And y'all know where to follow me. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as IG, as well as TikTok Sports PSP3. We're going to come up with some more clips and shorts regarding the Super Bowl, Kendrick's performance, and also from the Grammys. Also, 78 and a half subscribers on the Sports PSP pod. We're almost at 80,000, so we'll continue. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. Enjoy the NBA All-Star weekend. Be safe. And even though football season is done as far as playing, don't forget the scouting combine And then later on, the pro days, free agency, and so much more. So many things to look forward to regarding football. Because if there's something going on, then of course the Sports PSP podcast will definitely have conversations about that. But y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend, and